see you here. I saw a lot of you down around the town and the 4th of July activities. It was a great weekend to be in Norfolk. It certainly was, and it was great to see many of you there. We will start tonight. If you could all rise, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance with the flags right behind me. Thank you. Usually I have youngins, but I don't see any youngins doing it tonight, so we'll have to do it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And clerk, could you give the roll call, please? Roll call.
Turnbull. Morosky Brown.
Here.
Carter.
Here.
Janetti.
Here.
Krenz.
Here.
Great. So we're all here in attendance here tonight. We're meeting always in accordance with the policies and procedures set up in the governor's office for Open Meetings Act. So we follow those here and really the Roberts rules as we go forward. So as you know, if it gets too wild, I get involved, but we don't get that wild usually. So from there, if you haven't, some of you are kind of newbies here. When you come into the right, there's an agenda. What we're talking about tonight's right on the wall. If you need one, grab one or we'll have somebody give it to you. I'm kind of like your master of ceremony, so I'll walk you through this. So we went through one, the Pledge of Allegiance, call to order. We're number 3. If you're following that sheet, the approval of the agenda. Tonight is pretty straightforward, but we have 3 presentations, so you're going to get a lot of information tonight. And we have 2 different things on business. We'll get to that in the public comment if you want to speak. But I'm looking for a motion to go forward with the agenda that's there tonight. Is there any additions or changes to the agenda? Okay, seeing none, I'm looking for that motion.
I'll make that motion, but I have one request. We have a Ford Field playground document, which wasn't ready at the time this was released. If the clerk could just for the permanent packet, just add that to it. Yep. So that we'll have that for the record. But with that,
that'd be great.
You know, it doesn't change the agenda, but it changed the availability of the document.
Okay. We'll try to have, if you don't have that package, maybe we'll make a few more copies here before the night's over with too, if you need it.
Yeah. So with that, if that works, I move to approve the agenda as submitted.
So I have a motion. Do I have support for the motion?
I'll support it.
Support. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I think we can do this. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, we have an agenda. So now we go to public comment. So in here, I will give time for every subject that's on the agenda tonight. If it's something not on the agenda, this would be the time. So the things on the agenda that you'll come up here in 2 minutes on every one of them. Cemetery Task Force, even though it's a presentation, I'm going to get comments on that tonight from both council and in the audience. 7 Mile and Center Street Roundabout and the Ford Field Playground area. Those are 3 presentations. You can talk on all 3 of those tonight, have public comment. Also, new business, there's 2 things. So you can actually get up here 5 different times, 6 with the things that are not on there for the public comment. The 2 business items is 501 Fairbrook Street. It's a second reading, talking about 2 homes on there. We're going to do condos at one time. We'll explain that. We've already had 1 reading on that and public notice. This is the second one before they start that. 2, it is the street utilities program, and Mike will talk about that. So you will be able to talk about that, the street program at the end. If it's something other than those 5, this is the time to speak. If you're here to talk about something, if those are one of the things, I would ask for you to wait until that subject is brought up. Other than that, this is your time to come to the mic. You'll get a lot of information on presentations here shortly, but if it's something other than those 5, this is it. Do you have, I'm going to start in council chambers. Is there anything on your mind in here? Going once, go right up, Nancy. And full name and address for the record, please.
Nancy Darga, 516 North Center Street.
Great.
I'm as the chief of the River Restoration Task Force. I just wanted to bring it up to your attention that there is some kind of fiber optic cable that's going in that went under Baseline Road and up to 8 Mile Road. And it is right next to the river. And there is stuff that's going in the river. So I'm just asking the building department to check it out. That's all. It's not critical. We have no major earthquakes or landslides,
Yeah.
but that kind of stuff starts to deteriorating the quality of the water. Thank you.
Duly noted. Thank you, Nancy. Anybody else in council chambers? Come right up, David. Full name and address.
My name is David Merrill. I live at 443 Gray Street in Northville. And I just have two quick comments. I've been here for 48 years since I moved to Northville Estates. And so we've been to a lot of parades. And I just wanted to say thank you to each of you for having the parades go through Main Street and Center Street. So thank you. Second comment is I'm involved with the young people, mostly college freshmen and sophomores now. They started out in high school and they are going to be at the mill race this Sunday. So I'm just a little commercial. There is a Concours d'Elegance. If you love cars, it starts at 10 o'clock at the mill race. There's going to be some cars you've never seen in Detroit. So I hope to see you there.
Great.
Thank you very much.
And that's in the newsletter this week. We talk about the different things going on in Norfolk, and that Concours d'Elegance is in that. So that'll be on City News if you want more information. Great. Thank you, David. So anybody else in council chambers? Okay, I'm closing off comments here. If you could just let them know how to raise their hand online.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You bet.
Essentially, if anyone is watching at home on YouTube and you'd like to make public comment, the detailed instructions are on the agenda, but essentially you'll just pick up your phone the same way you would if you were calling into your local radio station. Once you call into this meeting, we will let you in the meeting. And from there, just press *9 on your keypad to raise your hand. Again, the detailed instructions are on the agenda.
Great. So as you scan the ones all online, do you see any hand raises at this moment in time?
So there are no callers at this time.
Oh.
We've got 4 viewers out watching at home at this point.
It'll get more exciting here, I'm sure. Good. So going once, going twice, those online, and still you have nobody with their hand raised at this point?
There's no callers.
Okay. So I'm closing off public comment. That's number 4. We got some written comments. It's all in our packages. We got one a little after 4 today too, but that was reposted. So you should have that in your package there. So make sure, my expectation is everybody to read everything in the package before they come to game time here. So anybody that put comments in writing, we have that in the package here in front of us. So thank you. And those that are online.
And the clerk will note that.
Yes. Clerk will note that. That'll be online so you can see, publicly any comment that the letters that came in. So, yep, thank you. So with that, then let's go to consideration of approving the consent agenda. The consent agenda is a lot of different things, from minutes to departmental reports to board and commission appointments to professional services to purchases of different things around the building here, and the emergency expenditure of Allen Terrace on the PTAC units and what have you. So is there anything to take off the consent agenda? Anything? If not, I'm looking for approval of the consent agenda as stands.
Well, I would request that item A, the minutes, be put on the regular agenda. I had communications earlier with George about this. He's aware. So if that can be moved, I think it can be handled when we, at the end. So I don't know what, let's see.
So that would be
Item
9C.
C, just C.
Do we have support to put that on the regular
Yeah,
agenda?
the consent agenda is just a lot on it,
Yes.
but I'm comfortable with leaving
Okay.
those other items on. There might be
Okay.
a couple questions during, at the end during comments, but not anything to hold up the,
So,
approving them.
so that would be moved from A in this section on the consent to it'd be 9C of new business.
Yes.
If there's no other comments on that.
Nope.
Anything else to take off the consent agenda, add it to the regular agenda? Okay, so with that, motion go to 9C, adding to that. All in favor of that?
Yeah.
Get a second on that?
Oh, yeah, no, I
I'll
would like second.
So yeah, I didn't, it's to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Okay.
Formal.
So Would you like to make that?
I can make it.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think anybody made it yet.
Right, no, they didn't. I just wanted to clarify that that is be the motion, and I did hear a second to that motion. Any other discussion on that on the consent? Okay, I think we can do this. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, so we have 9C. I will open it up, seeing that move to the regular agenda. If you have a comment on what's on our minutes, I'll open that up too. So from there, let's go on to presentations. So we have a lot of information tonight. You'll be very knowledgeable before the night is done. So first, we're going to go 6A is the Cemetery Task Force update. And is that David, you and Mr. Kranz? Yep. Okay, very good. I put it in your world. And this is one of the 2 task forces that are new in the past year or two. We had 3, and you can see all the action that they're doing. It's a cemetery task force now, but before that, it was the River Walk with Nancy has done a fabulous job down at the Farmers Market area, the old McDonald Ford or across from Custer Time and Ford Field. You've seen all the action in the past year or two. So great activity here. We expect great action in the next year, and they've already had action. So they have our full support. It's all yours.
One moment.
You bet. No problem. So as you're looking for that, again, these task forces, a lot of people, 20, 25 people sometime on each one. They're doing all the work. We're looking to approve and support them on different things. We were so pleased. We started some of these in 2019, and you can see at Ford Field, I think there will be another part. We're spending over $5 million, mostly all on grants, and they're working that out. You tell me when you're done over there. The second one, on the River Walk, there's 5 different sections, and we've gone out and got different grant fundings. We went to SEMCOG to get $1.5 million. So with that, it's all yours. So
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and residents. So just want to do a brief update. We'll keep it bright and brief as best we can. We'll keep it
Great.
10 minutes, leave a few minutes for questions.
yes,
But we just want, under the great leadership of David Merrill and everything he's been doing, along with, I think we're up to 40 plus additional volunteers that are helping
Sweet.
build the city's history back up in the cemeteries. It's actually quite remarkable what's going on with this group. So we thought we'd come back in and share with council and the community exactly what's happening. So with that, let's get right into it, Ken. We know our mission statement from before, but for anybody who is not here, take a look at that. But as you all know, part of the reason we all live here is Northville takes great pride in its history. We do a wonderful job through the historic district and our architecture and maintaining and, preserving that. But anybody who walked past Oakwood within the last year cannot feel proud about the way that cemetery looked. It was not a gem for us. It was a neglected piece of our history that has literal founding fathers who are interred there. So under the great advisement under the mayor, I had the good fortune of making eye contact with him at one point. I got a new assignment.
here, put your wish for, you'll get it.
So my wife loves that. That's another assignment. So what this group is doing is treating our hallowed grounds with the same amount of reverence that, let's say, our architecture and let's say our written word is. And if you walk by Oakwood right now and even into Oakwood, you're going to see some of the striking differences that are occurring. But there's so much that's going on below that I'll let David speak to. But on the right is that list is up near 40 people and is already out of date. And I'm going to let David kind of speak to what that is, but it's an extraordinary effort from a lot of passionate people in this community who really want to see Oakwood and then also eventually Rural Hill shine. They want to have it be something we can be proud of. We can tie it into the work that's going on with the bicentennial work. So, David.
All yours. Thank you, Andrew. It's all yours, David.
Thank you, Andrew. Just to follow up on what Andrew had to say, be careful that you don't catch the mayor's eye, 'cause you end up here. No, it's really been a great opportunity. So we got started in August 25th was our organizational meeting. And we had a little more than a half a dozen there. And we got off to a fast start. Thanks to Jim Porterfield, who's sitting over here. We had a tree assessment completed, and that assessment showed that we needed plenty of work done. There were 3 or 4 trees that needed to be torn down. And anyway, I'm going to talk a little bit about that later. We also had some initial stone repair and cleaning done by Dave Carter's restoration team. That was a gift of Stuart Oldford, who has the Yerke Cemetery, and Carter Cemetery Preservation is who Stuart used and we chose also. Then in October, Mike Dominy, DPW, coordinated the removal of 3 to 4 trees and trimmed others before the cemetery walk. We didn't want any accidents there. Also, we received a second round of donations for more stone repairs. So the stone repairs are all due to donations. That's great. So we were very fortunate to get a article in the Ville by Michelle Becht. And some of you probably saw it, but this is a couple of the first page of the articles. We started out, we initially formed 6 subcommittees. I'm not going to read all of them to you. We decided we were going to start in Oakwood because that was needed intense ICU, I guess. So we worked there, and then we didn't want to duplicate our efforts with Rural Hills. So we did Oakwood first, and then we just formed this year the Rural Hill Planning Committee. So we're working with the Bicentennial Task Force too, and we're coordinating things there. So the last time we reported, Andrew was here and I was in some warmer place. We had 19 members and now we've got 47. So
That's great.
one of the nice testimonials that I got is from that our team got is from Wendy Gutowski. And Wendy has been on a lot of task force, and she said this is one of the most enthusiastic task force that she's seen. So, and she's on it, and she's
Still on it. Yeah.
So to date, we've had 115 stones cleaned and repaired. So Chuck Murdoch heads up what we call the Tombstone Gang. I debated, I started out as the Stone Gang, but I quickly got.
It's already been known. It's another one.
That's probably not a good idea, but so we learned that we divide the stones into 3 types of stones. One are the ones that are broken into pieces. You'll see those a little later. One is the one maybe that the stones just tilted to 30 degrees down, and then one can be cleaned. So we started out having Dave Carter do everything, and then he came in and taught a group of people, what we call the Tombstone Gang. As I say, that's headed by Chuck Murdoch. So far we've cleaned about 115, cleaned and repaired about 115 stones. We also have a lot of discoveries. Sometimes the base is missing for tombstone. We're looking underground. Dave Carter digs down a foot, 18 inches, and lo and behold, there's a base down there. So there's just a quick aside. You can kick me if I'm going over the 10 minutes, but the mayor has been given information that there were 16 veterans buried in Oakwood. But thanks to a couple members of our team, Joe and Jen Brodzik, they said there was actually 26. And we put flags on all of them but one. And why didn't we put a flag on the one? There's no tombstone. We would have just put a flag in the middle. So anyway, I'll speed it up. So these are some examples of the way some of the stones look. You can see over here that this particular stone was laying on the ground and looked like that. So then Carter Cemetery Preservation restored that one. Part of this one was underground. We've restored that. You can see there's, thank you.
Hey, David, you might want to stay over here and have Andrew point, just because anyone online.
There's 2 pointers over there. I was running.
Just for the people online.
But thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you. So, and we'll have dozens more, dozens being 50 or more. And I'm talking about Oakwood right now, because that's what we're primarily working on. And we're in the final stages of being able to take donations to a 501c3. We've been trying to do that for months, and we think we're just about there. Dave Carter has 5 more work weeks left that we can have. So we need help with the funding of that. And the mayor's been very helpful, and I believe we have another round coming.
We do, and we will continue to support.
Yeah, next, please. So you all like the pictures probably better than words, but these are some of the Tombstone gangs members in action. And Chuck is very careful because we have to be careful. We have special brushes. You can't just send a bunch of older young people out there and turn them loose because they wipe off the names, and there are guys out there without the names. But so I should mention that a week from Saturday, Chuck has a Tombstone gang at 10 o'clock in Oakwood. And by the way, this Wednesday at 1 o'clock, we have the trees and gardens gang. They'll be tidying up that cemetery. So let's see if there's anything else on. Yeah, just we use these cities, the budget from the city for the stones. There's plenty of money for the city, but that's for, like, a lot of it is for trees and for fences that we'll be doing in the next fiscal year. So next slide, please. So here's a slide on the trees and grounds team. It's led by Anna Hay and Carolyn Roth. So for Memorial Day, Andrew, if you can hit the top one and make sure you get the weeds. Thank you. Was in pretty dire shape. So that was that project there. And you can see not only did she clean up the weeds, the stone's a little cleaner, and she bought 2 pots. So we had Boy Scout Troop 777. The night before the Memorial Day parade, he organized about 4 people to come out and were scouts, and they picked up sticks and branches. The Methodist Church Youth Group gets the record because while I said they filled over 75, some of them claim that it's closer to 90. So, but there's a picture of them, and there's bags. We knew Mike Dominy and his team didn't have enough to do, so we wanted to get some more bags for you. Okay. So since our last time, we have started this rural hero planning team, and just in the last 10 days or so, we set our priorities. This could be related to the bicentennial in places that we would either point out on if there's a bus. Some of these areas, depending upon the amount of money we have, will have signage. And our vision is that the signage might have a few sentences and a QR code, maybe a picture. And we want to connect to the robust history and data that we have in this community. So if someone just wants to read about it, that's fine. If someone wants to get their iPhone and study. So these are our priorities at this time. Whether we get to the first 3 or we get to all of them, the Founder Circle, that's some very prominent names. Those were people that started the cemetery. I think they got a discount on their plots. Was it like $15 or something for their, so they're buried there. It's right near the veterans area. So that's one we'll be doing. We've got the commander of the VFW at Hikes on our team, and we are working with them. They've got a fundraiser going on right now, by the way. The GAR area, anyone know what GAR stands for? The Grand Army of the Republic. Yep. There's a cannon there too. So anyway, that's an example of what our priority is. So we feel that our cemetery can demonstrate to you that we are the eyes and ears of the cemetery. So back in September, I already talked about Jim Porterfield identified what needed to be done. And I'm not saying that DPW or Mike Dominy doesn't know that, but we're additional eyes and ears there. And I know they work closely together. And then in the May 25, the ground team observed that the flags were not placed, and I was there too. On 26 graves. The VFW was out the Sunday before, and I'm sorry, it was primarily a different Boy Scout group. I think it was 757, and the parents they put hundreds of flags in Rural Hill, but when the grounds team was cleaning on the Wednesday before Memorial Day, there were no flags there. So we got with the VFW and we got with the flags, and I told you the story. We put flags on 25 there, and we're hoping to get Boy Scouts to take care of that next year so that Joe and Jen Brodzik, who know where every stone is and who's in it, they actually did it themselves for us. So again, we like to think we're helping to be the eyes and ears here. In June, I guess it was actually in May, and it was Chuck Murdoch's point, actually, he's on several teams, observed that the lawn mowing done weekly was cut a little bit too close, and it almost didn't really need to be done on some of those days. So we got a hold of DPW and asked if they could change it, the mowing from weekly to every other week. And Mike just told us last week that he was able to make some changes in there. And that's quite a big budget for the city. So there should be some savings that we'll hope that you'll generate there. And I think I turn it over to Andy.
Thank you, David. Thank you to the 45 people that rely on David for his leadership on all this. So I'll just come back now. This is my hat in hand with the tin cup time, so I get to take part in this. What I wanted to highlight, and David showed it, is by training our own residents to clean stones, that becomes an economic multiplier. So we're not paying David Carter's team to go clean individually. You're training. And if you go through Chuck Murdoch and that team and their training, there was something I think I commented that we have already avoided $7,500 in spend by just working on the stones that don't need the complicated repairs. So this is just how do we work smartly inside an extremely limited budget and make the multiplier that we need for the biggest common good. So what's coming here is, as you can imagine, we're at a point now where fundraising, we hope to start through private donations quickly once we get the 501c3 tie-in. We know there's some interest out there. The clock is ticking on this season because, as David said, that's his phone. That's his phone.
They're calling already with donations.
So
I'm on calling. Yeah.
I called you on that. So we're doing the cost avoidance there with the team working on it, but we are in need of materials. And as we know, the season is only so long in Michigan, and the city does have a budget allocated that we're working through. But we're also going to need private donations in order to keep David Carter going on those 5 weeks, and then to really get Oakwood to shine in its entirety by the time the bicentennial hits at the end of next year. Coming this year is the bridge over at Rural Hill. The new fence is going to go in. Thank you to the DPW team over there. Mike's done a ton for us. So once we get this 501c3, we're really going to be looking for the community, not just for help and labor, but also materials so that those volunteers can go be the economic multiplier and do it for God and country and maybe not necessarily for, let's say, compensation. So still working on standing up a team that's trying to do grant identification. That's tricky, as we all know. The city's been remarkably successful on grants over the last couple of years. This is a slightly different approach we're taking here. And then when it comes to Oakwood, what we can look forward to is next year, not so much this year. We're going to be trying to target new wrought iron or equivalent archway, new signage. If you walk past there, the signage on the Oakwood front is simply not good enough. And I think we would all agree that a city like this deserves a more elegant entranceway and signage that's there. So we're going to be looking for private donations and help on that. The stone repair through Dave Carter and the Tombstone Gang. We really want to keep Chuck and his team going as much as we possibly can. So anybody in the sound of my voice, if you're willing to make donations to help that, the multiplier effect of that is extraordinary. We only need a few $100s more maybe from a couple people, and we can keep going for quite a while. And you go see what that team does. You go join them on the weekend. You got 14 people there who could be anywhere else, but they're doing that work. Extraordinary. And then Rural Hill, Ed was talking about this. There was a little clip on, I think, Fox 2, where he was talking about the need for that asphalt walkway, because part of Rural Hill is a VFW area. It's a veteran area. So he's looking to raise $15,000. So if you find it in your heart that you want to support that work, if you were there in Memorial Day, when, my goodness, this city shined, I think we can do better on that as well. Like, we had U.S. senators there. We had our congresswoman. It was absolutely fantastic. But if we can take what we see there and bring it up to where I think we all want it to be with more private donations, that would be exceptional. I would be remiss, George, if I said at some point I might come knocking on your door and see if we can bump up that 500 to just a little bit more with some arm twisting. And I hope council's listening on that too, because like I said, when you have 14 people who are working for free, we'll see what we can do. But the first and foremost is we should be looking for private donations. So that's imminent, and that's what's coming. So I think we extended well past our time, but hopefully this was worthwhile. David, Chuck, anything you want to add? Okay.
Right.
Any questions?
Well, let's questions here. And then if you have any comments, I wanted to thank the team, David, Andrew, Chuck, and Jim, for all they've done. If you haven't, walk into Oakwood. They've done phenomenal work, and Chuck getting all the volunteers out there. This will be one of the stops on our bicentennial tour. I always say we're kind of on the shoulders of those that came before us. We have a Revolutionary War veteran in there, fought in 1776. And we have, 24, veterans from the Civil War. We have to remember our history and where we've come from. So we're trying to put our best foot forward. I thank you all for doing that. I'm astonished at the amount of participation. We will keep trying to raise money from public and private sources. And I'm just astounded the work there. We got to get it all done by the end of 26. And I know you're on it. You're no pressure at all. And that will be a stop, and people will get in and out on the bicentennial, like a dozen different stops, and they can walk around and they'll be picked up in the next hour. So it's quite something. So other comments from those on council?
Yeah, I can go next. I'll reiterate, thank you to David, Andrew, Chuck, Jim, and everyone else on that list. I'm not going to read the full group, but your commitment and services are appreciated. One thing that would be helpful, and I understand there's a prioritization and there were a few items on there that were if we get the funds, but I think it'd be helpful in the future to be able to put together an analysis that says, here's kind of what we're trying to do and here's the funding required for that. Not putting it on the spot for right now, but so we can start brainstorming, coming up with ideas. And I ask that in kind of twofold because I know on the signage front, that links perfectly with our bicentennial because we have our historical markers team that is putting together signage around town. Some of those will be permanent historical markers. Don't worry, the QR codes are not permanent, but they will allow for an interactive experience for people to look back at various places around the city. I think we can team on that and link both in terms of the signage and the orders, as well as in the fundraising effort to try to get as much public support and donations as we can to achieve it. So let's work through both of those activities together. And then I think it also was mentioned in terms of the website and some of the other events coming up. I think there's some opportunities for us to grow closer as we get closer to the bicentennial.
And the two teams.
No, point well taken. We do have a capital strategy. We just didn't have it in here, but you're absolutely right.
Yeah. The work that this team has done is simply amazing. And then when you put it in context that this is since last August, their kickoff meeting, it's really truly phenomenal. I thank the mayor for his vision in having this task force, and then for the leadership of Dave and Chuck Murdoch, and all the others. I mean, just the number of people, 47 and growing, is just phenomenal. And as a council member, what I'm doing is I want to support your efforts. So we had this discussion and I believe that this should be a public-private partnership. And right now in Oakwood, most critical because that is a cemetery that is no longer an active cemetery. It's also in our historic district. It's a historic cemetery. So important. And I believe this year the allocation was, we set it aside if they're able to get it done in calendar this next fiscal year, which we're in right now. The allocation is for the a new fence, the new fence. So that's already there. But of course, we have a cemetery fund by charter that's for perpetual care. But of course, perpetual care is long-term. I mean, that's infinite theoretically, right? So we can't dip into that. That's an I view that, as we discussed during budget, as an endowment, but we do get interest each year on that. And by charter, any excess fees for the cemetery that's active, net cost, should go into that fund for perpetual care. So, to look to, it looked like, the 500 a year, I think it needs to be, if there's a valid reason that to up it, particularly if there's a 5-week window for some of those major stone repairs, that should be brought to city council, because I think we can do that without, simply with using that interest from the cemetery fund. And that's the endowment, as I call it, with the lower E. So that is my comment on that. The other, and this segues a bit into what John Carter said, is I think it'd be really helpful, not now, but maybe when it's quieter in the winter. I mentioned this briefly to Dave Merrill, is to have a 5-year plan. I mean, certainly the DPW does the routine maintenance, and that's wonderful that you identified potential cost savings, maybe less mowing, which is not cheap. But I'm talking about the periodic maintenance and restoration efforts that are underway. So a 5-year plan for that needed maintenance and restoration, seeing how that would play out over time, maybe starting with Oakwood, doing that over the winter would be really helpful. And it would allow, clarity for those private donations, as well as how the city can help. So that would be, just a suggestion for the task force over the cold winter months. So, but thank you all very much. I think there's quite a few of you here now. So thank you for all your work.
Laura, anything to add?
All good. Thank you.
Great.
David.
If there's any comments from anybody in the chambers, going once, going twice? Yes, ma'am. Right up there again, so they can hear you online.
I wasn't planning on talking, but anyways, Nancy Darga, 516 North Center Street. I was on the city council when we did the master plan to expand the cemeteries. And thank you very much for pointing out, we set up that interest-bearing account to ensure maintenance. But as someone who's made a career of turning over rocks to find gold on behalf of the city, I'm going to suggest that instead of hunting grants, you get some genealogists and start hunting descendants. And then what you do with those descendants is you set up a Memorial Freedom Fund, separate from the maintenance fund. This Memorial Freedom Fund will be able to take care of the historic cemeteries. So my suggestion is go for the heartstring, find the descendants of these people, ask them to donate towards the memory of their founder fathers. Thank you.
Great.
Wonderful.
Andrew and David, got that? Let it be said, let it be done, let it be written. Okay, we'll look at that opportunity and we have the names of everybody that's in there. So great comment. Anybody else here in council chambers? Once, twice? Any hand raisers on this?
We have no hand raisers at this time, Mr. Mayor. We do have 4 watching at home.
Okay, I figured it was coming. Good. Excellent. So you are just looking, this is just an update today, right? You're not looking to go forward to any motions from you. So great update. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank all 4 of you leaders for what you do. Let's go to presentation. We're on 6B if you're following there at home or out there in the audience. 7 Mile and Center Roundabout update. This is all yours. I think you have a whole team of gentlemen with you, Mike. Mike, tell us about the Roundabout update here.
Yep, just real quick from me. OHM will be giving an update on the Roundabout project, or 7 Mile and Sheldon or Center Street.
Okay.
I just want to let everyone know that we'll be having another public meeting on July 30th.
Okay.
Next door, 5 to 7. It's not a sit-down meeting. It's like our previous meeting. You don't have to show up right at 5. You just pop in at any time you want, take some time walking around different tables, ask some questions, get some information, take your time walking around, ask as many as you want. So that'll be July 30th. It's a Wednesday, next door at the community center from 5 to 7.
And I'm here that we might even have the roundabout set up so people know how they can walk around in their car.
I got a lot of, I got a little,
Crossing the
I got a lot
road,
of
that
toy
would be
cars
good.
in my truck right now. So.
For all my seniors, all of our seniors, they like to know where they can cross and how they're going to get around. So think about that too.
So, yep, so OHM presentation, John, you ready?
It's all yours, gentlemen. Welcome.
Welcome back.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, council, residents. I'm John Caters. I'm a principal at OHM Advisors. I'm the designer for this intersection, this project. I also have with me tonight is Mark Locke, who's the project manager for this project. So tonight, sorry, switch if you would. Tonight, pretty simple. I was asked to kind of give an update as to where we're at. So we'll go ahead and do that, give you a status update on where we are. I will mainly cover that. Mark will cover the schedule as it stands today, and then provide some information on the construction. So in front of you, you see kind of a picture of the corridor. In the big red box is the area that we've been discussing, been designing. Thank you. And how's that? You see that? Yeah. Okay, red box. What we've been discussing, been designing for the last couple of years. And just east of there, you'll see another roundabout, and then kind of literally if you squint a little bit, but some paint lines in between the two of them. This is the culmination of a lot of work with representatives from the mobility network, city staff. This is kind of the grand vision for this area. So we wanted to show that. The 7 Mile and Hines, just to the east of here without the box. Again, that is really early in the conceptual stages, but some thought and some effort has been put into that. In 2025, it's not under detailed design yet. That particular one has received funding for fiscal year 2028 from the state of Michigan. But we're really focusing tonight on the red box. Next. So at 7 Mile Sheldon and 7 Mile and Sheldon, what we have here, the design is 100% complete. Now I heard Mr. Domini allude to a public meeting that we had last time that happened to be last August. The design has not changed since that point. The design is 100% complete. We are, as we've been discussing the last couple of years, we are targeting these goals: safety, mobility, fitting in the space that is available to us, and of course, efficient traffic flow. A very important thing to remind everyone is that we always wanted to achieve these single lane entries into the roundabout. These are very important for low speeds and for pedestrian crossings. So we made an effort to, make that key element of the design. One thing I will mention is that landscaping was previously discussed in other presentations. I think the landscaping has been deferred and it will get completed later on in a separate contract. So again, design is 100% complete. Within the last year, we've really been focusing on getting the permits in the right of way. Particularly conversations with Wayne County, with MDOT took some time, months, let's say. I won't get into why, but it took some effort. Okay, we'll leave it at that. But we did finally get the approvals that we needed to keep this thing moving forward. And we have the approvals we needed from those agencies, including MDOT. So right now, if you've noticed, there's been some private utility relocations occurring out there. There's Detroit Edison poles. A few of them have to be moved. I think some of them might have already started on some of them. There's some AT&T lines that have to get moved, and then there's been some consumers gas lines that I think are mostly already rerouted. Right now, we are advertising for contractor bidding through MDOT and through their system. It's very regimented. official type system. And that is the low bid announcements will occur July 11th, which is this Thursday. Is it Friday? Excuse me, Friday. Next, please. So I don't know if the top part of this is cut off a little bit. So the top 3 bullet points there refer to the construction funding that's available. It's kind of a bundle, if you will. There's $2.17 million in federal grants, of which requires a $375,000 city match for a total of $2.55 million. As of our final design, 100% design, we ended up around 2.49 million, so right around that range. But again, we'll see what the bids come in this Friday. With that, I'll pass it along to Mark to give information on schedule and some construction information.
So here's
Might be the new face in the room. My name's Mark Locke. I'm a senior project manager at OHM. Glad to be here. I'm going to be going over the bidding and how we're going to build this and get around and keep traffic open and get people where they want to go.
good.
Trying to adjust the size and grab all this.
Got it, no problem. So as John mentioned, July 11th, this Friday, MDOT has their bid openings on the first Friday of every month. So we'll find out probably 10 or 11 o'clock, and we'll certainly let Mike and the city know who the low bidder is and what their cost is. So we're looking forward to this Friday. The award of the contract takes about a month, 4 to 5 weeks in general. Where we've asked for an expedited award, we need the time. One of the things that we were hoping for is to get this out earlier and get construction started earlier. As John mentioned, there was a lot of permits to obtain. Those took a lot of time to do. So we're getting a little later start than we had hoped, but we still have time, we believe, to finish the job. We're hoping to start in mid-August, probably second or third week in August, and probably go through Thanksgiving. So we're right up to the end of the construction season. Then it'll be fully open for traffic. The restoration will not be done and complete. We'll come back in the spring and plant the grass and get the grass to grow the following spring. There's, as John also mentioned, the other ongoing work we have on the north, be the northeast corner. We have AT&T coming in the next few weeks. They have a few underground buried conduits to move that are in the way of our construction. And on the southwest corner, DTE has a pole to move, and there's several joint users on that pole line that have to move with them. So they're also going to be out there in the next couple of weeks. And of course, we talked about the public meeting. Here's a quick slide, just a general overview of how we're going to maintain traffic. We need to allow the contractor enough space to work, and we need to allow enough room for the traffic to flow. So the proposed plan is to keep east-west movement open at all times. That's 7 Mile Road. That will always be open to traffic. However, the north-south movements, that of Sheldon and Center Street, will be closed. And that is a way we can expedite this construction and make it safer to build. So that's where you see the red X's on there. Those will be closed and detoured around this area. We also, another part to the project is just to the west of Sheldon and Center's Wing Street. We're doing some improvements there. We've heard the issues that the folks there that come out of St. Lawrence Boulevard that live in that southern community have in crossing that road. So if you notice on that west leg, maybe corner here.
You're right there in the crossover.
We're extending the island here, this grass island, and we're providing a crosswalk right here. So instead of having to cross the entire road at one time, you can go halfway. It's really just one lane you have to cross. You can stop, look in the other direction, and cross the other way. So we think this will be a lot safer way to get across the street from the south to the north or the north to the south. So that's one big improvement. We're also rehabbing. This is all going to be a reconstruction. This is brand new concrete pavement. This little approach here will be milled and overlaid, so it'll be an asphalt surface. It's my understanding that Wayne County was supposed to do some work extending west. I don't know if that's happened or going to happen, but that's I heard.
I think we will energize them to do that.
Do that. A big thing is pedestrian crossing. How are we going to get people? People coming from the north end want to go to the south to Hines Park area. So we have a plan to keep pedestrian traffic open at all time during construction. Next slide. Here's a little more detail to that plan. I suggest I don't want to get too technical here. But the first thing you'll see, we call it our pre-stage work, is we have to temporarily widen the north side of the road. So in here, this dark area here, this is temporary asphalt pavement that we have to place on that north side to make the road wider temporarily to shift traffic over. Once we pave that temporary asphalt, we're going to go and do the permanent concrete pavement on the south half of the road. The traffic will be shifted onto that new temporary pavement to give us the room to build half of the roundabout. And this is the benefit of closing down the north-south route. We can build half of the project at a time instead of building it in little pieces. If you flip to the next one. No, back, stage 2. Then once we complete the south side, we'll put traffic on the south side. We'll leave some curb off and we'll put some temporary pavement in here. That's these black areas. So you'll be able to just kind of scoot by the newly constructed concrete, and we'll build the north half of the roundabout. So after this stage, most of the full roundabout will be completed. The last phase we're calling stage 3. We have a little bit of curb to add on these dark areas of these long skinny lines here. That's some curb that was left off in the previous stage that we have to put on to finalize the job. And that'll complete the job. Like I mentioned, our plan is to finish somewhere in mid to late November if everything goes all right. We don't have any surprises. We'll get this roundabout open to full traffic over the winter, and then we'll come back in the spring and do all our final restoration. So it'll grow in the spring. Next slide. So a big point of this is the detour route. How are we going to detour traffic around this area? As I mentioned, east-west traffic, 7 miles of truck route. It's owned by Wayne County. 3 of the 4 legs of this proposed intersection are owned by Wayne County. So they were a big part of coming up with some of the decisions on this job. 7 mile east and west leg, Sheldon. On the south leg is Wayne County. Center Street is the city's road. So we need to detour Sheldon and Center Street traffic around this work area, and it's gonna be detoured 8 mile to back to 6 mile back to Sheldon. So in both directions, you'll get around this work area that way. This is really just your through traffic. Anybody coming locally that wants to come into this city, we have provisions in the plan. We could sign it, but in talking with the city, we didn't want to direct the traffic down any one of these residential streets. There isn't a great detour route for local traffic coming to the city. So we're going to leave it to the individuals to take the various side streets that you have here. You can go off Rogers, you can go off Wing Street, you can go off Fairbrook. There's a lot of different ways to get to Center Street when the intersections close. But we're not, at least as I understand it, we're not going to sign one direct road and put all that traffic on one residential street. That's not fair to the people that live there. So we're going to let the people find their way that want to get into the downtown area. Next slide, please. So that really concludes our presentation. We're glad to answer any questions you may have.
So I'll start with council first. I'll open it up for anybody questions here. Council members first.
I have
Do you want to start? Right ahead, Barbara.
Yeah, just questions. I guess it'd be to Mr. Cater. And this reflects something that we did get in a written comment. So I'll ask, this is about the safety, well, I guess too, but the safety of roundabouts generally relative to a cruciform, which we currently have there, cruciform style intersection, particularly in terms of injury accidents. And then also specifically the safety of this particular roundabout.
Sure. I mean, speaking generally between signalized intersection and a roundabout, I mean, there's been study upon study upon study nationwide. You can pick your state, they've done it. If a state has a roundabout, if a state DOT has a roundabout, they've studied it. Michigan DOT is no exception. What you see generally is anywhere from 60 to 90 reduction in fatal and severe crashes when you compare roundabouts to traditional intersections. Again, you can Google it. You'll find it anywhere. And as it relates to this intersection, again, the name of the game is always speed control and speed reduction. On top of that would be a change in context. This will be a total change in context. We're already kind of getting that with the building that's going on in the area. We have to get people slowed down. And that was the number one element of this design, is getting speeds down, yet still being able to move them in a safe and efficient manner. If you can recall some of my previous presentations within the last couple of years, we have strategically positioned the curb lines to keep velocities down, to keep speeds down. That's one of the key elements of a roundabout design, is the positioning of the curb. So we have done that in here. I mentioned earlier the single lane entries, incredibly important. We roundabouts nationwide, multi-lane roundabouts where there's 2 lanes or sometimes 3 lanes coming in. Those have problems across the country. And here we specifically avoided that. We were able to test it with our modeling software to determine that traffic will indeed flow with these single lanes. And that was the crux of this entire design.
Can I, Mayor Pro Tem, would you allow me to add to that, John? Can I add to that a little bit too? So I do a lot of this at work right now: pedestrian impact, pedestrian safety, design for pedestrian safety, complex system, peer review, all that. So IIHS and NHTSA have both had published the numbers that you're looking for. So IHS with NHTSA's confirmation said you have a 38% reduction in accidents relative to cruciform intersections nationally. 76% reduction in injury accidents and a 90% reduction in fatalities. No small part because you're avoiding the T-bone accidents from both directions and you have low speed impact, which is tied to the velocity squared for kinetic energy. And T-bones are really, really bad because you only have 18 inches between your hip and the outside of the car when something is going to strike you at high speed. Also, you touch on something that's really important about designing for single lane. So studies throughout Europe have shown that pedestrian crossing from a cruciform intersection to a single lane roundabout reduces pedestrian vehicle impacts by 75%. So the way that you've designed this is extraordinarily safe. Now, what we're going to have to do here is we have to be careful between preferences and data, and the data is clear. It's going to take a while to get used to this. I understand that. But if we had a chance to go back 100 years, this would have been the answer, because nobody is going to want to come down that icy hill into a T-form intersection and possibly get sideswiped from either direction versus something at low speed. And then if I may just touch on the memo we got today, the late ad, it was a study from Michigan Auto Law, which it's an attorney group, so buyer beware. Well, it's from Michigan State Police.
Appreciate it.
Published by them, and Ed, it was
just-
published by Michigan Auto Law.
Right.
And so just one thing I want, the study is there, and I thank you for sending that because more data is better. They show the top 2 intersections in Oakland County were what they quoted as the most dangerous, and they were roundabouts. And when they got into it, you go further into other articles, they said that they did not take into account the volume at the intersections. So whenever anybody does a technical analysis on safety, you look at rate, not number. So you're looking at the rate per thousands or tens of thousands of vehicles. So if you have a high volume intersection, odds are you're going to have by default a higher number in an absolute factor of accidents. So that intersection also was the busiest intersection in Oakland County. So it's no surprise that you would have accidents. And then also they did not take into account severity. So if there was an accident that was counted as dangerous, independent of whether there was an injury or fatality, when looking at those 2 roundabouts that were at the top of the list, there were 0 fatalities in the last 4 years. And that was not the case in the years leading up to it. And that's part of the reason that the IHS supports that, because of insurance claims. They would much rather do low speed fender benders than pay families for fatalities and severe injury. So I'm sorry if I went on a little too long, Mayor Pro Tem, but I just wanted to contextualize what you said on why it was so important to go single lane and why these are safer. So I'll stop.
Fair.
Sorry, Mayor Pro
You
Tem.
have more?
I have a couple other questions, but I can defer to letting other people ask their questions first.
You want to finish yours?
Go right ahead
We can
and
go
finish, and then I'll. Or to the other.
The other is, if you could go back to the slide with the detour. I can't, they're not numbered on my sheet, so I'm not sure.
You'll find it.
Um,
Go on.
well, no, it was it. There it
there.
is. So this will not be easy to mark, you know, like for preferred traffic ways. A detour is where you're saying you can't travel this road and we want you to go this way if you want to. But the reality is that doesn't address anything to the east as people approach Northville, right? So I think I don't know who the expert would be, traffic engineer, but how do we use to the east of this, along 7 Mile? Oh, well, I don't, oh, you don't want me with one of these.
No.
It's a dangerous thing. So, I'm just, so to the east, right? People are approaching from 7 Mile.
Yep.
People are also approaching Sheldon from 6 Mile, you know, to the east of where you have your detour lines. So, what should they do? You know, clearly 8 Mile's fine because they can come down Center Street still, just like they normally would. But we want people to be able to get, not direct them how to get through town, but how to get to town, right? And to those residential areas in there, as well as our core business district, which worries me. So, directing people if they're coming from 6 Mile or 7 Mile to go down, to take South Main to get onto Main Street. So what supplemental assistance can we provide to people? Because that one that you put up there, that may be official and everybody likes it, but it's not practical and doesn't cover the ways that they get in. So I am not a person that would know what would be appropriate, but I know that isn't going to be helpful,
For local.
for local, right? So, anyway, so that's I guess more of a comment versus a question. And then, this is also a suggestion, but I think it'll be natural as we get to November, if we're ready to open up that roundabout for vehicular traffic and pedestrian use, that we as a city say, how do we have some sort of learning sessions? We can do it through our newsletter with links, as well as having public meetings that describe how to do it. But I think we should have that, to begin, because part of this is learning about roundabouts. How do you use them? Certainly Oakland County has been giving us plenty of training recently. So, but not everybody drives in Oakland County. So how can we help our residents learn about how to navigate a roundabout safely, both for pedestrians and vehicles? And the last is a question, I guess, would be for George. It mentions in here a 375,000 required city match for construction. But then we also approved something in the consent agenda on that. And I think that says 421. But 431. But in either event, there was a substantial amount that Hunter Pasteur was going to be paying towards this. It's memorialized in the development agreement. Now, their coverage could also be for example, the pre-engineering and engineering cost. So I don't know what balance of that. I think it's 700,000 is remaining from HP.
Yep. So there's a number of things there, the engineering costs and all of that, and there's a splitting when you get to an overage between the city and HP, but Mike can talk about all that. I think he probably has a number. I don't know if you have the numbers in front of you, Mike, but once maybe,
Yeah.
do you want?
We could do that at the end during
Yeah.
comments, so not to put him on the spot, but I think.
Do you want to have the gentleman answer any other questions first about detours and such, and then maybe Mike?
Oh, I think, though, that was, the last was just, just given what was on the consent agenda and this discussion and what's on the status update on costs, that knowing that number, what the city's obligation will be and what HP's will be related to construction will be really helpful, Mike. So thank you. I'm done.
All right.
John.
So I will start off. Can we go to the visual that showed traffic flowing east-west with the blockage on north-south? So just one concern that probably is top of mind for all of our residents is St. Lawrence Estates. And we've talked about it numerous times. The crosswalk there, I do appreciate the median being brought down. What type of pedestrian signaling or signals are we talking about in terms of aiding people to be able to get across there during heavier flow periods?
Sure. Yeah, there are not pedestrian signals planned for this. We did discuss this. This whole intersection with Wayne County, we looked at a lot of options here. They gave us a flat no on rectangular rapid flashing beacons, which you have seen a treatment like that at mid-block crossings such as this. No is the answer that we received. Given that, regardless of that, we wanted to do a lot here to improve what's there today. Today, you have 50 feet of pavement to cross here, and you have a wide open kind of context. This was designed for kind of higher speeds, and like I said, we are changing this context to a lower speed, a place where you would expect to see pedestrians. So we are narrowing that crossing distance, and we're separating it from crossing all at one time to 2 stages.
Okay. I understand Wayne County said no, and so we're a little hamstrung there, but I think I'd like to know what their reasoning was. So if that could be shared with council, if we've got that now, that's fantastic.
Yeah, so as John mentioned, we did talk extensively with Wayne County about that. Well, Wayne County's opinion is a rapid flashing beacon. As you push the button, a flashing light comes on, yellow light comes on, warning motorists that, hey, you have a pedestrian in the crosswalk, you should slow down. Wayne County's view of this is that there's no legal requirement to stop. It gives the person crossing a false sense of security that they can walk out in the road when they push the button. When in reality, you're relying on the driver to acknowledge that there's something going on there. There's no legal requirement to per se stop. It's not like it's a red light or an official traffic signal. So that was the number one reason. There's some confusion about the users, both the vehicle users and the pedestrian users. And secondly, I think Wayne County just didn't want to maintain it in the future. These things can get hit, knocked over. They would be the owner of that after this job was done, and they would have to pay to put it back. That was the secondary reason.
I understand it's not your call here, but both of those reasons seem weak at their core, to be completely honest. Confusion seems to be preferred over a lack of awareness. And my concern is, especially late at night, if someone's crossing there, people won't know that there's a pedestrian entering the crosswalk. So I would hope that we can continue that conversation, because I think that's one that we've got to push on. I am also cognizant where you've got, I know we're saying we're going to have open with part-time lane closures. I think we have to be really aware of the impact during construction on the residents of St. Lawrence Estates. We cannot close down, and we have to make sure that they have an ability to get out, frankly, from a safety perspective, as much as daily life. And so I'm as we map out the plans, as we think about the different stages that were discussed, making sure that we're prioritizing that as part of the overall approach. So there's never a situation where we're preventing them from having ingress or egress. As I know, that is the only entrance or exit to that development. And unfortunately, we can't go back and change that. That would probably be the preferred outcome if we could go back in time. Second item, can we go to the detour slide? So between Center and Beck Road, you have Moraine, Ammerman, Cook, sort of, it's around the corner, and Hillside schools. As I think anyone who lives, a large portion, I would say, of our Oakland County residents will attest, when you get around school pickup and drop off, the backups form along 8 Mile. And what happens often is cars will use the kind of side lane, and it is not a lane, to go around and frequently at a high speed accelerate towards Beck Road, as well as the backups that take place. I think we're going to need to have conversations around what other traffic flow measures. And this is a little bit of an impact of the permits being delayed and this now taking place significantly within the school year. But we're going to end up with a compounding effect during those windows. And I have a feeling that we're not only going to need additional traffic measures, we may need to have police or traffic control support in place to help navigate, especially since you have children that cross that road or those roads as well during those periods. So general comment, but it's something we should start planning for now because it's going to be an issue. Next item that I had on the list here is if we can go back to the timeline. And this is more of a question that I don't know if it's for the city or for our partners here to answer, but we've got the timeline that goes August through late November. I know within the private sector, there is a term liquidated damages that some in this room are probably aware of that would state if we don't hit that Thanksgiving deadline, then for every day beyond that, there is a financial penalty that is incurred as part of that project. What I'd like to understand is how are we ensuring and incentivizing that that timeline cannot extend? Because for our community, I can tell you there will be a financial impact and there will be a broader experiential impact if that starts to extend and extend and extend. And that's always the concern with projects like that. So I don't know if we have the option of liquidated damages, if there's a structure along those lines, but I'd be interested in how we plan to control and hold them to those dates.
So yes, all these federal aid projects do have liquidated damages. They're based on the construction cost of the project. It's a set rate. It might be $1,500 a day, something like that. So the contractor has to adhere to that. That being said, if there's something unforeseen that comes up, a lot of times that can get extended. They're given days based on this unforeseen work, and they may be given 2 days for this and 4 days for that. So that's the way it gets extended. So we got to watch that. But there are penalties associated with finishing the work late. Yes.
Okay. If we can share as that gets finalized, what that penalty is with all of the members of City Council, I think that'll be useful information for us to share with residents, and we need to track and manage that. Next item is we mentioned, or it was mentioned, I should say, that landscaping has been deferred. If I looked at the slide that showed the 2.49 versus the 2.55 in the cost, that's about $60,000. Is landscaping accounted for from a budget perspective, or has it been deferred and not accounted for? And if it hasn't been accounted for, where do we see those funds coming from?
So originally the landscaping was in the job. Landscaping has been kind of a funny item. In some past roundabout jobs, the federal aid has paid for the landscaping. There's a benefit to the road to have landscaping in there. On this job, when we tried to include it, we were told flat out, no, it's no longer included. You cannot have federal aid go towards the landscaping. So at that point, it was going to be 100% city cost. And it was upwards of, the first one we did was over $600,000 in landscape. When we cut that in half to $300,000, and then eventually came out altogether. So we had a plan. We worked with Mike. We were talking about working with the Downs developer, maybe getting their landscaping person behind us, kind of behind the scenes outside the limits of this contract. You know, again, these federal aid projects, you have to pay Davis-Bacon wage rates, so they tend to be a little more pricey. If we can do it outside of that, we might be able to save the city money. So that was the plan. If there's funds there, I'm not sure though.
Okay. So I think we all need to be aware that it's a gap in the plan right now. And I think that's a conversation for us to be having in conjunction with the developer.
And new information, different than what we. Yep.
Agreed. The last item I will raise, and then I'll pass it over because I'm sure there's others with questions, is, and this has actually nothing to do with this presentation, but just another point. What I like about this presentation is if you look as well on the southbound exit from Griswold, we have the bridge coming out of the Downs. I'm just going to use this as another plug that we need to make sure we continue to work towards identifying a funding source, making that a reality, because I think that's going to have a huge success factor in the overall project by continuing to emphasize other options for people that are departing the Downs to be able to leave without coming out to center or driving through Bealtown. plan. So just wanted to highlight that once again, but I appreciate the fact that we are now including that within our designs because it is part of the long-term plan. And with that, I will stop.
Thanks.
Same thing. Laura?
Yeah, I just have a couple. So, I'm just gonna say this stuff. I'm not not like butter over here. So one thing, as a city council member, I'm worried about the residents moving through their daily life and myself as well. I shop here, I eat here, I go to the doctors here. I mean, there's a lot we have to learn in this process. As a resident, I'm nervous for my mom to drive through a roundabout, and the convenience of everybody in the room here. Just like you said, it's not a preference. It's happening, and I get that. But in my least popular role, a business person, so I'm supportive of you, but you are the experts, and we are not. And I want to say to you this, and here, and I'm sorry, but the street closures are to tell somebody to come to town. We close the street so people can come to town in droves, to come on the weekends, all that stuff. To tell them to stop at this bottom of the hill, take a right, take another right onto or left onto Rogers. Bother those people who have signs that say, act like your kids live here. Then you take a right onto Main, and then you have to park there or go around and park. Then you park on the back structure on Mary Alexander Court. You eat, you play bags, you visit the shops, you get in your car and you're going to take, where do you go from there? Where do you go? Mary Alexander, you now take a left or a right, take that. I mean, I'm just like, it's going to be super confusing. So I hope the signage is good. I hope you don't assume all the people that come here live here. And that's my main focus. Other than the budget stuff, I do care. I do want to know if HP is throwing some money in there. I do love to know that, but that can be the detour plan is super important for me. Rogers Wing, I'd like to apologize to those people in advance because Bealtown had their hardships. Now Fairbrook, we're all going to have ours, except for us in Oakland County. We don't have any. But please know that I'm an unpopular, it seems very selfish, but what happens when Mike needs to shut Katie down for construction? We are literally, it's the first time in my life I don't want the bridge on 8 Mile fixed. So thank you. I know your job is, I get it.
Okay. What I can say to that, a lot of people use their phones. This will get on your apps and whatnot, and that can direct you out of the city.
So Google doesn't have Main and Center on there anymore. That's not. Yeah. So we have to figure maybe that out. Maybe that would be helpful. I don't want to be.
They'll be under comment in a second, I'm sure, Jeffrey.
All right, Andrew, it's your turn. I'm good. Thank you.
Hard to follow.
Sorry.
Andrew, do you have more? I know you got
I
early
just have a couple
comments.
things. No, those are great points from everybody. So I'm just checking off my list. There's a lot of really good opinions on here. Can you inform me why we chose east-west versus north-south in terms of how we were going to partition intervening traffic?
It was a strict decision by Wayne County. They said 7 miles of truck route, it must stay open at all times.
So that's what it was.
That's what it was.
Okay, so I remember that when I write my giant summer check to Wayne County. Thank you. Okay, so also, Councilmember Carter said some great stuff about being in the pathways of schools. I'm most concerned about, thank you. How we're gonna manage 6 Mile in the dark earlier in the morning for high schools when 6 Mile is already backed up for 2 miles that way. So I don't know how we resolve that. I just want to share that that's my top concern is all those kids drive to school or are taking buses and they go in when it's a lot darker, a lot earlier than the elementary school kids do. For St. Lawrence, some really good points on that is if we get into this, is there a plan B in case St. Lawrence egress becomes impassable? Like, would we do stop signs or would we do something to allow that if we see that it's just not working, that they can't get out of their development?
And they do not block, you know.
Like, do not
road,
block.
As we're starting to do that with them.
I think there's gonna be a trend there on Cyber Mile. They're gonna block. You're gonna come one way. People aren't gonna be able to get out, especially turn left. I'm not looking for an answer right now. I'm just saying as a scenario, I would hope that we think of like, all right, if we do get it back up through there and it does become impassable, what can we do quickly? Is it some striping and some stop signs? Something like that, that at least gives the St. Lawrence people a chance to get out. The right turning, I think, is going to be a little more rudimentary, but the left turn out of there if people are back stacked up and blocked, I really have a concern about that.
Okay.
And then I'm going to echo what Councilmember Carter said. It's like, I'm not at all satisfied with Wayne County. Did not feel like they put safety as a priority in their position. So if there's opportunities downstream to push out that, especially at night, I think we ought to be doing that. But that's outside of this discussion. So that's just more of a lament on my side. But thank you guys for everything you're doing. And for how many years we've been doing this? 4 years now that we've been developing this.
Yeah, that's good. You had simulations for a while.
It was during COVID we were first talking.
Just to add to this before we open it up, and do you have another
Just,
comment?
it's a follow-up.
Go right up.
Minor.
Go right ahead.
Oh, okay.
And then I'll.
This is the slide maintaining traffic during construction. So it's a different slide than that. It's the one with the two X's on, it's at X on Center Street and it, okay. So this was a little new. The last time you were here, Wayne County had the same, you must keep 7 Mile open both ways, all the time. So that's consistent. Also, I recall that Wayne County said that they wanted Sheldon Road, closed, period. No access, no turns, that's it. It's a dead end basically during construction. What was new was the Center Street, being closed. Because if you look at the different like stage, so when the construction of the roundabout on the south side is going on, why can't people turn off of Center Street onto 7 Mile? And this is new, right, from what we were updated before. So I'm assuming this is another finger pointing at Wayne County. What happened here?
Nope. I think that was just a decision made to expedite construction for pedestrian safety, to keep that going. We would have to, there's a signal there now, obviously there. I think you're exactly right. I think that was the option. It would be like a T intersection. 7 Mile would be here and you'd be able to T right into it. We were looking at options to keep that signal going. We'd have to move the signal around, signal heads around, but make it a signalized intersection throughout construction to keep that open. So it was a cost factor and the cost of that to move that signal around during the various stages, pedestrian safety, keeping that active going and speed of construction. It was decided to drop that and speed up construction.
And the last is, because there was good discussion about the pedestrian crossing, particularly at St. Lawrence Estates right there. But there will be pedestrian crossing signs.
There's the warning ahead, yes.
Yes, so just at a minimum, but that is the minimum.
That's minimum.
And in the future, as we move forward on this, Wayne County's one of the reasons, I agree with John. I'm really not buying Wayne County's rationale on particularly that crossing near St. Lawrence. But there are other options to that particular type of beacon. We see them in Ann Arbor, all over the pedestrian crossings where, it's just different, as a pedestrian's entering, it flashes on the pedestrian crossing sign, right?
Mm-hmm.
So would we have the opportunity, if we paid for it as a city, maybe not being able to pay for the beacon, that might be a tough, but something enhanced there. We could do that. We'd need Wayne County's approval.
Right.
And we'd have to pay for it, but certainly other options are less costly than that beacon. So, okay, so that option is still open to us. So I think we should think about that, get some input on that. Okay, thank you. It was a follow-up on.
Just to follow up on that, as Wendy Longpree knows and George, a few weeks ago, Wayne County came to us for the Board of Commissioners. They are going in with a supplemental because they haven't paid too much for this, as we know, as they've got a little bit of pressure, $400,000 to assist. I don't know what that might be our overrun. That might be the landscape. It's not 100%, but they came to us on that. With that, they want dialogue in the next week or two. What we've talked about the beacons and other things, this was absolutely, and not only a discussion on the phone, we will have them out here. You'll be part of it. All the discussion that we hear tonight, whether it's St. Lawrence and, the directional things and the schools, we'll bring in Warren Evans and his first lieutenants there, which remember we had to come to Jesus downtown about 6 months ago. They have asked for that and they came to us because they know they've gotten a lot of pressure from those in the city for more support. We will hear all these things today. The beacons, that crosswalk, let's see what we can do and how we can do it. I don't know what the answer is, but they came to us and it is going on their board of the commissioners vote to give us X amount of dollars. We need to give them a little bit more input. I think this is a great timing for this meeting. That'll be in the next 2 weeks out here and we'll show them those intersections. I just don't want pictures. I just don't want to be on, Zoom out there. So we will be involved. So we don't know the date yet on that. Great timing tonight. So everybody that's talking, we will do that. But they came to us, which is very unusual, because they know we've all given them a little bit of opportunity on this. So even if they want to call it the Warren Evans Roundabout, I don't care, just as long as they support it more financially. I know, I do too. I'm kidding, but we would like their financial support and the different things that you mentioned. So with that, it's all the comments I have that we will follow up on that. We've been working it for years in the simulations. With that, I would ask you to back up. Is there any comments? Mike was going to. Oh yeah, Mike, do you want to answer those before I do it to public comment? Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, real quick. So on the funding aspect of this, 700,000 from HP. So it is, they give us 700,000 towards this roundabout. That covers all the engineering as of what was approved for the design and for the construction management. So for the remaining 375 local match, that also in the PUD is HP will contribute up to 1/3 of that final cost.
Yep.
Okay.
So the ideal is that we take 1/3 of it, the county pays 1/3 of it, and HP pays 1/3. So if we get the county to participate,
Yes.
our local share would be about 125,000. And not to mention, this intersection is not 100% county. You do have Center Street. You have a stretch there that's going to get improved. It's a city-owned street, and if you did 1/4 of that intersection, that's over $600,000. So 125,000 or 600,000 to help improve our portion of the roads. Not to mention our pedestrians and Wing Street access over there.
Could you also talk about the landscaping and decisions about that?
Landscaping. So when looking at it, we thought, as Mark was talking, we thought maybe landscaping would be participating, such as DT lighting, water main. We are putting new water main in this project. It's not outlined in here, but yes, we're upgrading our water main. We've had several breaks in that intersection, as most of you all know. But since it's not participating and with a high dollar amount, let's push that to the side. We'll take a look at it at a later date. However, if you remember through the PUD agreement, the Downs development, they're putting in an elaborate gateway. So right there on that east and northwest corner, they already started on the old farmers market site. So they have an elaborate landscaping plan for those two corners. And you kind of really don't want them to compete too much, I guess. But I think we have time. Let's get it built. Let's get grass put in there for right now, get it operating, and then kind of see what would work there. If we put in a huge elaborate landscaping up front and then realize we're killing it with salt from the salt trucks or it's distraction of the drivers, we spent all this money for landscaping that we got to rip out, which a lot of communities have done that. They put an elaborate landscaping in, and then after one season, it either died or it was the distraction, and they had to rip it out. So that's where kind of the decision that was on for that right now. And then also, if we were to move forward with any type of landscaping, there's other task forces and beautification. That'd be ideal to sit down with them, take some time to actually come up with a plan
Yeah,
Right.
thank you very much. And I know we'll get an update later. HP is also, we have in our consent agenda related to the initial engineering for the 7 Mile South Main improvements. They'll also be making a substantial contribution to that required
Yes.
in the development agreement. Thank you. And yeah, the Beautification Commission, we had already asked that whatever, because the landscaping was very expensive and
Yep.
and not realistic in terms of maintenance. And I know they had some really good ideas. They've helped you on other projects, particularly the,
Senator.
yes. Yeah, certainly a minimalist approach. And even something other than grass, so it doesn't require that level of maintenance as
Yep.
well.
Yep. And then a little, I guess, an update was mentioned about 8 Mile Bridge. That has been deferred to next construction year. So the two projects won't be, going at the same time. So that'll be at least beneficial.
We're disappointed that it's not getting done, but at the same time, that would make
Correct.
everything.
They found all
far-
the fiber optics underneath the bridge,
Yeah.
but they had to
Yeah.
reroute. It's a great opportunity. You think you know that.
Thank
So
you.
your vision on that, Mike, just to follow up, then I will open it up to the public. To your vision, that's the gateway on the east and the west side. As you're looking at that, I see they're already building
They're
up the
started,
deck.
yep.
So we didn't, to your point, you didn't want to distract it maybe with the landscaping there because you're going to see that as you come down the hill. And that roundabout is on completely level land. That's why it's pushed into that area.
Yeah, it's not going to be completely level. It's going to be mound up.
No, but I mean,
Oh, yes, it's not going to be any type of.
come down the hill.
Yes.
And on more of the flat area, but you're envisioned that gateway on either side versus
Correct.
your competing.
There's going to be a gateway on
Yep.
the north side of.
I understand.
of the
I just wanted to
intersection on both
clarify
sides.
that.
Yep.
The gateway will be maintained by the association.
Yes.
The landscaping on that side is maintained by the
Yeah.
association,
Right.
not by the city.
Yes.
So
So
that's an
the,
advantage.
so all the landscaping will be maintained by the homeowners associations. However, the actual feature, the gateway feature of it will be city owned.
Okay,
So.
thank you. I just wanted to clarify.
And then the
your gateway.
last thing Mark mentioned about the county, they did plan on this last year paving going west on 7 Mile. It's been deferred due to our roundabout. So likely maybe in the next construction season, after we're done with the roundabout, they might come in and do just a mill and overlay from Wing going west.
And that might be part of our discussion in a couple of weeks with some.
Yep.
Right. So with that, anybody that has comments, public comment on this is a roundabout on 7 Mile and Sheldon. This would be your time. Full name and address. Come right up, John Roby. Great to see you here, John. I know it. Yeah,
John Roby, 511 West Dunlap. I just got a new roof put on the house.
you did. I saw that. Shingles and all. Mhm.
Shingles and all.
Wood.
And now, thank you for the approval.
Yes.
Wherever you.
Yeah.
I could talk all year on this and probably have, and won't do it again. I'm old enough to remember refusing dinner if MASH wasn't on TV. And my favorite line from MASH is, Americans think everybody speaks English if you say it loud enough and slow enough. Similarly, I went to the public hearing and stuck my nose in Mark and John and everybody else's business. And I felt like that American from MASH. And I hope not to do it again, but I'll do it quickly. Aside from big piles of data, and aside from this organization and that organization, some of this just makes sense on the safety of roundabouts. So I'll take a cue from Laura, and I'll just try and keep it simple, especially for me. And better acknowledge Nancy and David. I worked with them on Mobility Network, got the chance to talk with John and everybody else from.
Tell us the rest. You got 25 seconds.
So there are curves fully available that are shaped like this. And going this way is injury, going this way is speed. And if you can keep that speed at 20 miles an hour, people don't get maimed and killed. And that's what roundabouts do. And the other thing is, all the cars trying to kill you are coming from one direction, one lane at a time. And that's what John taught you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, John. Anybody else? And then that roundabout we're working on, that second one, 3/4 is funded. We got to fund that bridge. It'll happen. It's in the plans. Anybody else here on this subject? Going once? Of course, absolutely. Ed.
Raisin, 370 Fairbrook. I'm the one who sent you that letter about the most dangerous.
Thank you.
Yeah, 4 out of the 5 most dangerous intersections in Michigan are roundabouts. I'm going to leave it at that. Now, first of all, I want somebody here to explain to me why we need this in the first place. When you come out of that roundabout going north on Center, it's backed up every day, all the way from Center Street to 7 Mile. You want to go west at rush hour. It's backed up from Center Street to Rogers every single day. Now, you go through the 1-lane roundabout and there's traffic's backed up. Where are you going to go? You can just keep going around in circles? Nobody's even give that a thought. And the other elephant in the room, where's all the construction traffic to go from the downs? How are those double-sided trucks? Where are they going to go in and out now? They're going to go down Fairbrook? They're going to go down Wing? They're going to all go out at Griswold? Has anybody thought about that? You guys got so much stuff going on in this city and nobody's paying attention. It's all about the grants. Got to get it done right away. This project should not be going on this year. There's no reason for it. The grant, you can get it next year or the year after. I don't see any reason for doing this right now. If you recall, we had a discussion about this last year where you guys wanted to stave it off for a year just because of this reason. And then all the traffic, once they fix all this, all these trucks from the downs are going to be driving over and ruining the roundabout. So you tell me how this is going to work with all the traffic from the downs too. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, Ed. Appreciate it. Get some information over to him. Yep. Next.
Kevin Clark, 777 Spring Drive. It's kind of a follow-up for that. I'm here basically concerned again about the detours and the impact to the schools. The delay has cost the ideal time to start in June and have it done by September or most of it to minimize that impact. I don't understand why we're going forward with it this year, particularly in light of the detoured extra traffic on Beck that's already there from the M14 stuff. I didn't think about the 8 Mile stuff being next year, but still, even if there could be some possibility as a minimum to consider some other phasing so that maybe the traffic coming off of eastbound 7 could exit onto Sheldon to relieve some of that traffic to help the flow and not have this delay as lengthy as what it currently is. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Anybody else here? Jeff.
Hi, Jeff Snyder, 508 Gardner Street. And a couple of things. First of all, I have some really uneasy feelings about this. Just generally, I'm concerned about safety, concerned about impact for my neighborhood and just around downtown businesses, all that. You've heard a lot of that today, but I think roundabouts are very effective at moving traffic, keeping traffic flowing, through intersections. But my concern is already owning the businesses at the corner of 7 Mile South Main. Some afternoons, it already backs up to Heinz Park and they wait to queue over there. I witnessed 2 accidents in the last 6 weeks. They're minor, they pulled into my parking lot and I helped them and such, but it's a big concern during construction. I think they're going to be queued up to the construction site, right? And they just sit and wait there because what should be happening is the 7 Mile South Main intersection, that should be done first. So you're doing the roundabout now, but you're gonna load up that intersection that's already pretty terrible. So, and I know it's probably too late. It's already in you just can't waste, I guess, the grant money. But I'm also concerned about the Bealtown impact of these construction trucks. We already get trucks sneaking up and down. We have Consumers Power in here the last month and a half, and they might be another month. But once it starts, we've also been seeing traffic that's queued up on 7 Mile, turn left on River and right on Beale Street to kind of so they can make the left turn. Because there's only 4 or 5 cars on the left turn lane to turn north on Center that can queue up to do that. So concerned about downtown. I mean, Eddie makes a great point. We've all seen traffic backed up to almost to the light. But thank goodness the light and the traffic lights were queuing them up, slowing it down for a minute or so, a minute and a half, and giving room for more to move in. Now they're going to be backing up that way. So thank you.
Thank you, John. Anybody else in council chambers? I'll open it up online. Cindy.
Cindy Brazen, 370 Fairbrook. I just have a question that probably Chief Maciag would have to answer. What is the record of accidents as that intersection sits right now? Have we had fatalities and all this, doom and gloom that we're hearing about? Or has it been okay? And for people that say, well, roundabouts will prevent fatal accidents. You know what? Any accident's bad, because guess what? Now I got to call my insurance company, and guess where my rates go? It doesn't matter if it's a fender bender. It's an accident. Also, I am concerned about where the construction traffic will go. And I was just wondering, have you ever considered a protected left turn lane rather than a roundabout? Has that even been discussed? Have there been other, suggestions in not doing the roundabout? Also, going to mean to the buses, the school buses, when this all takes place, where do they go? And we have seen tandem trailers going down Fairbrook Street. Not a lot because, people have instructed them not to, but we have seen it. And I just think this is just going to make it even worse. I don't see where these tandem trucks are going to go if the intersection is closed. They're supposed to take Center Street to 7 Mile. Where do they go?
Thank you, Cindy.
Mayor?
Yes.
We do, if I could, our number one intersection for property damage accidents is Center and Sheldon and 7 Mile, and then also injury accidents as well.
And we'll get that data on that intersection.
Data is available through NPD.
He is not here tonight. We gave him the night off.
But we can provide it.
Anybody else in council chambers before I open it up on those online? Going once, going twice. Okay. Closing off council chambers. Any hand raisers online?
We do, Mr. Mayor. Actually, there's a couple callers that have called in. One of them has their hand raised.
Okay.
The other caller, if you'd like to speak, please press *9 on your keypad. We'll start with the first caller that has their hand raised with the last 4 digits, 6887. Please state your name, address, and proceed with your comment.
6887. We can hear you, I believe. Go right ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
We can hear you now, nice and loud. There you go.
Thank you. Okay, am I one of the first callers absolutely able to navigate all this? Pounds, 881, *9, *6s. Kind of like a maze to get through to you guys, but it's worth it. History point. I do believe you guys did talk ad nauseum and research ad nauseum that it was going to be $4 million to enlarge the bridge at 7 Mile because it goes over the water, or you get a $3 million grant. So that's the history where this roundabout's coming from. So basically we're stuck with it. We're citizens. We just have to work with it. But I don't know if it's Eagles, legalities, or whatnot. But when schools open, what's going to happen to Main and Center Street? Because if you could at least traverse Main Street to Northville Road, you can get out of Dodge that way. You can come through Center Street. You can patronize some of the businesses. You could try to find some parking in the Katy Street. So that's one question. The second question is also what's been coordinated with the school system, because there's going to be a lot of unhappy mama bears trying to get down Center Street to get their kids over to the middle school and also to Ammerman. And yes, I'm north of 8 Mile. I'm blessed in that aspect. So the only skin in the game I have is when I try to go the other side of 8 Mile and I can't get through the schools. I can't get into town. I'm pushing out secret maps on how to cut through Randolph and Parmenters and Eden Dairy to all the seniors so they can get around this mess. We just shouldn't have to live like this. The communication really needs to be good about where we can go to park, shop, get through town. If I die, I bought my funeral at OLV and I want people to get to Genetti's, okay? It's just, I want people to keep patronizing town so it's open. And I mean, can you please open those streets, close them for Victorian, but other than that, open it. We need other avenues there. It's just kind of my 2 cents on it. And other than that, we're stuck with the roundabout and we just have to make the best of it. But whatever's going on, like I said, with, closing it to the snowfalls, get as many streets open as possible, please, and coordinate with the parents, coordinate with, the city website to say, hey, we got a little construction going on, but we're still open. Come to our library, come to our Main Street, come to our restaurants. These are our fall activities. So just my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, and hang on for a second. If you could give your full name and address, I was trying to get that at the beginning, but I didn't want to interrupt you. Let's go right ahead.
Oh, thank you. It's Francine Helenity, 331 North Ely.
I should have known that. I thought I recognized you. Thanks, Francine. You probably knew it.
Oh,
I knew
also, my last point I'm going to leave here, it's very important. The St. Lawrence's, the kids were born and raised in this neighborhood. I got Phyllis, my dear neighbor here. People have been expressing interest of somehow getting a marker at that point that's a horse and whatnot, something that will commemorate the downs there. So if there's any art grants or whatnot, think about it.
I think we are looking at that. Thank you very much, Francine. I should have known. I know you, Francine. Go right ahead. There's another one queued up. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Caller with the last 4 digits of 3955. 3955.
Caller 3955, your full name and address, and it's all yours.
Please, caller, please press *6 to unmute yourself first. And then state your name and address. There you go.
Hey, my name is Tyson Navarre with a 914 Ely Court. I definitely echo Francine's sentiment in doing something to commemorate the Downs area. I think it's just, there's a lot of heritage behind the site and it would be a shame to lose that. But one of the things I wanted to comment on is the roundabouts. So the roundabouts themselves, I think, are a great addition to the city. They do a great job of funneling traffic. Statistically, they are safer. And one of the things I wanted to encourage everybody, especially people that are concerned about the safety of roundabouts, there is a great podcast with an excellent episode specifically about roundabouts from Freakonomics Radio. If you do a search for that on Google, give it a listen. It's well worth it. And that's all I got to say.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. You got his full name and address, didn't you? Thank you.
I did. Did you?
I did not.
Yep, she did. Yep. And we have it on tape too.
Clerk has it.
It's recorded. I'm old. Anybody else with their hand raised?
No other callers at this time, and you have 67 that are viewing the meeting from home.
Excellent. That's good. So I'm closing it off for public comment on that. That's great. We have about 100 people listening to this today between here and there. Excellent. From that was just an update. Where are my people? Where's correct? You are not looking for a motion today. We've asked you to come forward. We will have that meeting in the next week to 10 days. They asked for information from us to put some financial resources towards this. We will have a follow-up. we will get together with all the input we got here today and even in front of St. Lawrence. So I wrote it all down. We'll have a pre-meeting and then we'll get with Warren and his team. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here tonight. So with that, let's go to the Ford Field Playground update. This is, we've been talking about, again, this is an update on kind of which direction I think we're going here today. A lot of work from a lot of volunteers for the past year or two on this. And Wendy, I'll let you take it away. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Can you guys hear me okay?
We can.
All right, super. I am here today to talk a little bit about the Ford Field Playground project. I have with me Claire Perko with Spalding DeDecker in case I need a little backup or get some questions that I can't quite answer. So the reason we're in front of you today is I'm going to give you an update on the playground project. And we are at a point working with the committee where it's really a kind of turning point. It's a decision point. And depending on which way we go, it's going to influence a number of things, including potentially project cost and project schedule. So since it is different than what we have been talking about so far, I just would like to get council's support, or if there's any questions or concerns, to give you the opportunity to weigh in as we're looking at these two decisions. So next slide, please. Just a real brief overview of why we're doing this project. The playground is about 30 years old. It is constructed of wood. There's a lot of, it really in the most recent playground safety inspection, it did not fare well. So it definitely has been well loved and is really in need of replacement at this time. It also doesn't meet ADA standards nor playground safety standards. Next slide, please. Last time that I came forward to provide you an update, it was February 20th. And what we talked about at that point in time was the concept plan that we had come up with, outlining the project scope, which is to update, install an updated play structure that meets all current standards, poured in place, rubberized unitary surface, landscaping and seating areas, and then benches, picnic tables. And this was sort of the concept plan we came up with. We had established a playground committee to help guide this process, and committee members are identified there as well, including several from the Ford Field Task Force, the River Restoration Task Force, as well as interested citizens and representatives from our Park and Rec Department. Next slide, please. So since that time, I'm going to run through real quickly the things we've accomplished. One is we took that project concept plan and developed that into construction plans. And in this case, when I say we, I mean Spalding DeDecker. So we developed construction plans and specifications, and we structured the project to be what is called a performance-based contract. What that means is we told the bidders how much we were going to spend. And within that budget, they were instructed to provide us with their greatest vision for the play equipment, to include site work at their best price, as well as to include the surfacing. And then what we received back from them, the playground committee went through an evaluation process with that. They looked at the type of equipment, the qualifications of the individual bidders, checklist of what they were looking at to narrow down based on qualifications and based on the product that they received. Next slide, please. So we opened bids on the project on April 10th, and we received 4 proposals. These are 2. One was a company named Pensura with equipment landscape structures. Second company was called Decima LLC, and their equipment came from a company named Park and Play Structure. Next slide, please. We also had Rhino Recreational Construction providing equipment from Little Tykes, and then Mid-States Recreation providing equipment by Play World. You'll notice that these equipment companies, these play equipment companies, are a little more of what you might call traditional commercial play structures. And so this is a point we're going to talk about a little further in the presentation. So I wanted to make sure to bring it up here. And by traditional, I mean they're the metal structures with some I call it plastic components. There's a different term for that, with structures that have a lot of different play opportunities, a lot of different play value, a lot of real creative things going on that you can construct and fabricate when you have the ability to work in metal and plastic. Next slide, please. Part of what we gave to the contractors, by the way, or potential bidders, is we gave them a whole description of what our vision was for the playground. And we talked about what we wanted to see there, the components we wanted to see, the things the community was interested in. A key component was handicap accessibility and, of course, meeting all the playground safety standards. So with the information we got back from the contractors, Spalding Decker did a very detailed analysis of all the prices we received. You can see here, this is just a real basic summary. It shows you how much each of the contractors identified that they would be spending on play equipment, how much they would be spending on the surfacing, and how much they'd be spending on the site work. And you see there's a great variation, and that's for a number of different reasons. Several of the play companies used a lot more surfacing that was the wood bar as opposed to poured in place. That's a lot cheaper. So you can see that reflected in their surfacing prices. But then you see some wound up spending more on site work. That's again going to be dependent on how well they shopped around and who their subcontractors were, et cetera. So the thing that the committee really focused on is looking at the play equipment and the play value that we're getting for the same dollar amount. So the two companies that appeared to provide us with the greatest amount of playground equipment were Rhino and Decima. But again, that was just one component of what we looked at. So we looked at the straight numbers. Then the committee interviewed all four of these companies. They spent a whole day, April 23rd. That's an intense, 6-7 hours. So I'm super thankful for all of their time that evaluated all of these, and they selected their number one choice, which was Rhino. And then they came up with a list of revisions that they might like to see to the playground equipment to bring it closer to what our vision was. And so I'm going to zip through a few pictures here to show you what Rhino provided to us. Next slide, please. So this is an overview, and Rhino gets the gold star for rendering as well. They did an amazing job of showing what this vision is. So you can see here, there's a large play structure. There's a bank of swings. There's a smaller play structure for the younger children, lots of landscaping. There's a natural seating wall up against the embankment. Now, some of these pictures are shown from different angles, so there are some labels on the pictures. You can see on this particular one, on the upper right-hand side would be where the embankment is, and the playground is going to be off to the left-hand side. Next slide, please. Shows you a bit of a different angle. This shows you from the parking lot looking towards the baseball field, and you can see the location where the future restroom might be, and that's what this site would look like. And this landscaping as well as the concrete work, that's as per what was designed. And so this is what that is going to look like if fully implemented. Next slide, please. This is another view. What you see there kind of in the center in between the two trees is there is sort of like a primary piece of equipment that's, it has height to it. It's got wow. And that's really what you see when you walk into the playground in this design. And the little stepping stones there, those are in between the trees here aren't shown as the red maple, but but those are existing currently. And so that's how we're going to preserve those trees and get people back and forth, is walking on a pathway through there. Next slide, please. Here you can see another angle of the larger play equipment. Same with at the bottom, walking along the walkway along the baseball field, with the baseball field on the right and the play equipment on the left. Next slide. Here is another view. This would be the view as you walk into the main entrance. And like I said, there's the, as Rhino has outlined it, there's the sort of key welcoming feature. Next slide, please. And then this is in this, as you're coming into the second entrance, which is currently designed to have an archway that says Ford Field. So this is the current design that was provided by Rhino. And as we had talked about it, it's using what a lot of people tend to see now in playgrounds. It is unique to Northville. The various components that they have placed in it were all geared towards what we had instructed. The layout is instructed to focus on accessibility, so there's a lot of ramps. It's a little more open. So they really did a good job of responding to what we had requested. Now, I talked about a decision point. After the committee heard of who the play equipment suppliers were who submitted bids, one, it was brought to our attention that we might want to give consideration to using a different type of playground company, one that hadn't submitted bids. The one in particular that they wanted to have us talk about was a company called Play by Design. And they are basically the current play structure was built by Leathers and Associates. It's a community-built structure. It went through a process of community design and built by the community, but that was all guided by the Leathers Playground Company. Play by Design is an offshoot from Leathers, and so it's sort of a more modern, updated process, but it comes up, the result is a product that is real similar to the existing play structure with updated materials meeting updated standards. And so I'm going to show you a little bit about what that looks like, and then I'm going to talk about what our choices are right now. Slide, please. So this is some photos from a playground that was done by Play by Design. And it is a playground, it's in Ann Arbor, but I want to make sure to get the right place. Eberwhite School in Ann Arbor. And so you can see how it looks like it has a similar design aesthetic to the existing structure. Now, it is not constructed from wood. It's a wood-like product. It's a
Plastic composite.
it's a plastic composite.
It's a marine grade plastic composites.
So it's durable. Now, plastic composites don't have I don't know that I'm going to get this right. They don't have the structural support or structural integrity that metal does. So in some of these uprights, they're actually, they have a metal core that then is surrounded by the plastic composite, because that's the only way that structurally you can get that integrity to hold up the various panels. So that's something different in the construction from what it was before. And again, marine grade. And then a lot of these, each one is going to be unique to the community because of the components that each community chooses and how it's laid out. And it's pretty much an unlimited design options with this. The other thing that Play by Design does is for some of the individual components, they partner with what you might be called a traditional playground company to provide those components. Play by Design works with a company called Burke, and Burke provides them the swing sets, the slides, those sorts of things. So it's kind of like a partnership. So what we did is we asked Play by Design, we said, okay, if we had a budget of $420,000, what kind of playground could you potentially design for us? Because Play by Design doesn't usually do the bid process. They are set up for communities to come to them and work only with them. They don't typically do a bid process. But we asked them, what is within our budget, what you could potentially give to us? So next slide, please. So this is a playground that was in that budget range we gave to Play by Design. It was installed in its Wildcat Wonderland playground. They call it a rebuild in Taft Park, Humboldt. And so they indicated that this is a playground that would fit within our space and be within our budget. You can see that on the right-hand side, there's a couple of things that are X'd out. That was their way of saying, okay, here's something that would meet your budget, but you can't include these if you want to stick within your budget. So you can get an idea of what that potentially would look like. Next slide, please. And this is the same playground just from the other side. So you see slides are here. You've got the swing in the back. You have some of the sort of fort-like components to it. And then a couple of things that give you an idea of some of the things that they can include or have included. This particular design includes the next few components that we're going to look at. Next slide, please. Here you can see you've got right in the center on the bottom, you've got two ropes right next to each other, climbing ropes so that the kids can race. You've got, they've made sort of like a climbing forest on the right-hand side. Left-hand side. On the right-hand side at the top, you see a swing, and that is one of the swings that I was talking about that would come from a company like Burke. And, a lot of kids can ride on those. Those are a lot of fun, by the way. Little bouncy thing in the lower right-hand side. Next slide, please. They have, in attempting to make these things more accessible, they've added some accessibility components, extra wide ramp designs, as well as a high-low trapeze rings, which basically allows someone who uses an ambulatory device to play and race or play alongside those who can play and work in an upright manner. And then these are some of the slides that you might see as well. Real similar again in size and design. Okay, next slide. So here's our decision point. That is, do we continue negotiations with Rhino and move down a more traditional path, which would be making potentially some adjustments to the playground design? We would have an opportunity for community input through a survey tool, which is something we've been talking about for quite a while now. Potentially a contract recommendation to City Council as early as August 18th with an anticipated schedule of construction this fall with landscaping in the spring. And that's sort of what the process we've been talking about. Now, if we decide to go with Play by Design, what we would be looking at is we would need to reject the current bids. We talked a lot about, is there any way we can, work with the existing bidders, do change orders, whatever. And really, if we're going to maintain the integrity of the bid process, removing such a large component from the contract, there just really isn't any way to do that. It's too substantial of a change to what was bid initially. So if we went with Play by Design, we'd reject the current bids. We would be looking for council to support us working with Play by Design as a sole provider. They really are pretty unique in what they provide. They do belong to a purchasing cooperative, Sourcewell. So we would be purchasing through a purchasing cooperative, which is within our purchasing policy. And as long as council concurs with our approach to doing this, there's no reason why we can't. we'd look at revising the construction plans and rebidding the project for site work only. We would do the site work under a separate contract, and then we would bring in Play by Design to do the playground and the surfacing. And the likely impacts that we're looking at is we're going to be looking at a different schedule. There just isn't any way we can meet a schedule of the majority of construction by fall. There also is potential increase in costs just because we're going back out to bid. We don't know what that site work cost is going to come back at. So that is a likely impact. We do have some flexibility in our budget. Fundraising has been going very well, so I think we've got a little flexibility in the budget. But that's a risk. If we can't predict what those costs will come back at. I have other on here, and primarily that's just because I forgot to take it off, but there could potentially be some other things. Claire, have I missed and have I summarized basically what, we're looking at this decision point?
Yeah, I think that's pretty clear. I think you covered everything pretty well.
Okay. So the committee, I think they weren't at a clear direction the last time we met. My sense was that the strongest opinions were leaning towards Play by Design. And so before we went too far down the road with the committee, we wanted to touch base with council, get your buy-in, and then we'll call the committee together again and lay out sort of a plan for moving forward. So any questions?
So let me start first, seeing we put this committee together for the playground, and they did a lot of work in the past year. And they came up with a lot of work, over what we're going to do and what we're not going to do. And they picked whoever, Rhino, or you had all these bids. We went through the normal process. And personally, I grew up here. My kids are late 30s, so they grew up in that. It is aged now. We never had a fort here. I don't love the Ford idea, but I see where you're going on phase 2 here, or could. I personally like the modern deal, but I just want to know, one, you address the question timing. If we go in a different direction, it'll be next spring and the whole bit. If we continue down this road, it'll be this fall, and then we'll do some landscaping next spring. Let's just say we raise more money, through different partnerships and the whole bit. We could add to this, correct? Or
when you say
add
this,
different
are you
things.
meaning?
Let's just say that whatever you went with Rhino, was that the one that the group looked at one time? So I want to know intellectually, what was the change? I thought you gave it to one, and then you had a change in that group. You have, I think, some of the members of the group here. And tonight, I know you're not asking for us to vote, but you're looking for direction. Do we stay in Rhino and maybe add to this if we get more money, or do we redo it? And somebody that wasn't on the bid, what's the name of the company you just mentioned?
Play by Design.
Play by Design. The last one. Tell me just in general, the 30-second, what happened
I
between?
think first of all, what I'm looking for more is ensuring there's no opposition to one way or another.
Okay.
Because I want to know if council's going to have a problem with us going in a different direction, or if you're going to have a problem with us staying, where we're at. So I'm interested more in hearing, do you have issues with either one of those? If we get more money, it's not going to make any difference which one we go with. We can add more stuff.
Okay. Okay.
Or if you talk to George and Sandy, they would say we can give some money back.
I know they're not.
We can use less from.
Whatever
we can use less from the general.
This will go. I appreciate that. No,
So, but that is not going to
I
matter
understand.
depending on which one.
Good.
Could you, the mayor and I did talk about this issue that in your first proposals, all the proposals looked a little sparse in terms of the play structures.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because maybe they put a little too much in site work. But when you came back and asked them to maybe do a little bit less in site work and a little bit more in the play structure, is that was reflected? Because it looked like the first one from Rhino was maybe a little bit smaller of an amenity. and then you toned that back and had them put a little bit more into it. Did we get to where we wanted? Is that enough play stuff in that size thing, or is that still too sparse? Of a what you get from Rhino now, are we where we want to be or not?
Yeah, there is a change from what we first got to this, because yes, we did give them a little more money and asked them to revise. We also gave them some guidance on what we didn't like from the first round. So this is a change from what they first submitted. Is this the end? No, because I don't think if the committee were to choose to go this way, I think they've got a good deal more feedback they'd like to give to Rhino. And so it is possible that there would be some changes even after this.
Thank you. Coming from St. Lawrence Estates, they're all. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry.
Oh, yes, just, Mayor Fargo here with Spalding Decker. We haven't awarded this to anybody yet.
Right.
So this was still just.
I had to go to council for the final award. And
Right, so nobody has been awarded this contract yet. We just have a preferred that we wanted a little more information from so that we could compare a little bit more equally with Play by Design. So we haven't gone back to Rhino yet and said, okay, we want this exact and this and move that. And whoever we select, whether it's Play by Design, Rhino, or any of the companies, going forward, the playground committee will have a chance to sit down with them and say, I like this color, I don't like this color. Let's switch this swing out and this, and be much more detail oriented. So they will get an opportunity.
And the final approval though comes to council though. The final bidding
there
comes from you guys.
No, when public comment comes.
Can you give a little more background on why this team was moving to Play by Design? You know, I mean, Liz Carter and some of the other will choose.
Dave, when you have your public comment, you will give this. This is not public. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Dave. I thought I had at least touched on that. The committee was interested in looking more closely at Play by Design because of a couple of different things. One, they really were looking at trying to come up with a design that was a little more reminiscent. I'm trying to think of the word that
Heritage.
that
Historical.
fit. They felt like this kind of playground didn't fit Northville as well as the other one did. Similar aesthetic. The committee is looking for a more similar aesthetic to what is there, and one that they felt fit within the community better. So, and I also want to be clear, the entire committee, it wasn't completely committed to go down this different road. They've been having some pretty extensive discussions about it, but there is a strong leaning at this point in time towards Play by Design. And I think a lot of that relates to the aesthetic and wanting to, you know, look like Northville. And also I think there was a real interest being able to have a higher level of personalization than what you would get.
Sure.
So that's my understanding.
And I think we'll get some more information as I open up for council to give you questions and then public.
And did that address your questions, Mayor?
It did. And just from my standpoint, again, starting, thank you for all the work of everybody. I, as one that grew up with the Fort Griswold, we didn't have a fort. I don't have to go with that. I like the modern look, but I got it. We're going to hear from everybody here and we're going to give you a direction this way or that way here in a little bit. So with that, I will open it up. Maybe with John Carter first saying, I think you have some input on this.
I've got a few thoughts.
Yeah.
So I think most of you know this project is very close to my heart, and I'm very passionate about it. I have had a few people reach out, so I do want to address. There's a few that have said, "Can we save Fort Griswold?" I love Fort Griswold. I share that I have so many memories at Fort Griswold, but it is in need of repair. It is a safety risk, and it's time limited. So we do need to move forward. So I will address that just right off the start. I think Wendy, you actually just meant to kind of walk through it, but while it wasn't unanimous, just based off the number of members of the playground committee that have reached out to me today, which it is a passionate and engaged group, I do think you have a majority, as you alluded to, that want to head in this new direction. And for the reasons that you referenced. The first thing I would say is, I think consistent within the community, doing it right is more important than any timeline. And so we have to do it the right way. We have to do it in an appropriate manner. There are a lot of emotions tied to Fort Griswold and Castle Park within this community. I don't think that we can undercall that. It needs to be unique. It needs to be historical. It is within our historic district. It's in the shadow of Millrace Village. And it's been iconic for a long time. And I know I'm talking about a playground, but if you walk around town and you go door to door, you'll be amazed at how people talk about Fort Griswold and their memories of their kids and their grandkids in that place. In terms of the fundraising, I do want to highlight, we need to make sure that all of the money we raise, whether it be through patronicity, whether it be through Rotary or through the Declan Carter Foundation, all of that money needs to go to the playground. I want to be very clear and specific about that because we're making commitments and promises to people. But I also want to highlight the fact that we have 3 entities there that are all approaching or have surpassed $100,000 each. So you have an incredibly engaged community that wants to lean in and make this project a success. And we have more projects and efforts coming up in the coming months that will add additional funds into that pot. So I guess my commitment, Wendy, is recognizing that, yes, we keep asking for more, but we're also in terms of helping to identify those funds, raise more money, conduct more events, and making sure that we make it a success. But that's my overall. In closing, I like the new direction. I think it is more in keeping with the aesthetics. And frankly, if I go back to the original Ford Field Task Force and I go back to what we presented to council way back when, before I was sitting up there, when I was on that side, what was presented in Hometown Life, I think it's consistent with what a lot of the community has seen as the proposed plans. And I think it will be appreciated and celebrated more so by our community.
I get you. Good. Others on council.
I just have to say, I mean, we form these committees for a reason, and there's some really great people on them working with a really great company. For me, it's, I appreciate everybody doing the work, but if we don't let them do the work, we're not, I mean, I appreciate them doing the work. I don't want to do that for them. So I think we have to lean more towards these groups that we keep putting together and then second guessing.
Others.
Briefly, I'm on board with what Councilmember Carter said. I think we got to give great deference to the committee who's putting their time into this. So I'm in full support of taking a look at play by design. Can we bid them while not awarding the contract to the other ones? Or is there a certain time we need to respond?
I don't know legally whether.
Done this fall off the table.
Yeah,
Get rid of that.
I don't know. I can't speak legally whether we can or can't, but I would not be comfortable
I don't think you can
keeping
pull
the other.
This is my opinion.
And then,
Here's my legal.
right. And then did we learn by going through this that the site work and surfacing was going to be a lot more in the budget than we thought, just based on current conditions?
That may be something that people looking at it think, but no, it's within the range of what our engineers had estimated and what I would expect.
Yeah, my personal opinion is that's a little too sparse for what we had. Because if I look at, let's say, like aggregate square footage that kids could climb on now versus that, I think the artwork is beautiful, but I don't think that's going to be sufficient. So if we did go this route, I would want to look at trying to find other funds or a phasing structure where one year we do some and then another year we do more. I just don't think that's going to be enough for what the community is expecting from the Fort Griswold replacement. Can the community help build the play-by design structures? Can we reduce labor with their work, or is that too specialized?
Anything you want them to do?
Sometimes
Looking at each
They
other.
get in the way, don't they?
coming from a community design process, it actually takes more effort to navigate and get and to just pay the company to do it from safety perspective and corralling all those volunteers. It is a very difficult, it's a rewarding and enriching process. It is a very difficult process.
We could put them on something else around Ford Field. Okay.
And then when we talk about a survey, can we bias the survey towards having a lot of kids take it as opposed to the adults?
Well, a couple of
Kids
things.
are gonna be the teachers.
If we go to the play by design route, they have a whole community design and engagement process.
I'd like to see what the kids say.
By the time it's built, they won't be kids anymore.
I know.
I know that they'll be in college.
Lauren, I wanted this 5 years ago, so I get it. And then the last thing is, I've been saying this, I'll say it again every time, is I really am a proponent, if it's not in that specific hardscape, but somehow worked in, having hills and undulations and everything else, because you go look at the Main Street playground at the old school.
Yeah.
Those kids, if you put a heat map on that playscape, they
On the
love
mound.
pushing each other off that hill. They're not doing anything in those fancy other
Yep.
so
Yep.
you can do real free and cheap hills and undulating, you push dirt, and that
They love it.
ends the play area at a very low cost and is obviously durable and sustainable over time.
Great point.
Yep, so I'm Wendy, just know I'm gonna say it, you can just even plug it in every time, that I really want us to get creative beyond just like the flat hardscape. Other than that, fantastic work. I heard from the April 23rd meeting that we got the absolute most out of all those citizens. And they might not ever do anything ever again for the city, because it was
Right.
like 8 hours.
It was a long meeting.
But I respect that, and we're so lucky to have those people who are. So I would be in full support of looking at play by design, especially if the majority of the committee is going that way.
Barbara?
Yeah, I'll address this in two parts because that's where you're asking for our direction. So the first is we did a bid process and sometimes that doesn't work. And it's not a reflection on these companies that submitted these bids. It's what over the past few years has been communicated to the city, to city council, on what the vision is for Ford Field Playground, specifically for Griswold. So it has been, the sentiment, as John mentioned, is why can't we keep it? Let's fix it. We know that's not possible. But then the next is, well, we want something like that because we love that. That's the general sense. So I feel that there has been a commitment made through various discussions that we are going to do that. So it'll still have the same sense of place that Fort Griswold had and the kind of elements that it currently has that are so loved. When I look to those that did bid, and I'm sure they're high quality products. So this would be Pentura, Decima, Rhino, and Mid-States. None of those have the element. And I did know what these were ahead of time when they submitted bids. So I went to their website because I'm thinking, well, maybe there's more, right? But this is their style. As Wendy called it, a traditional commercial play, traditional by today's standards, right? And so none of these meet that bar of we're replacing Fort Griswold, right? Because we need to replace it, but we're going to keep that sense of place that is currently there. And Rhino still, I mean, they provided additional, because they had such a focus on the site work and that they did more in terms of more there, but it's more of what doesn't fit the need for this particular project within our community. So I appreciate that they did that, but now it's like, what's the next step? So I would, it sounds like there is a consensus among the committee that their preference is to go with somebody else. We did the bid process. So, but the mayor said, I was surprised that you don't like Fort Griswold, but
I didn't say that.
yeah, you did. You don't like a Ford.
So from that standpoint, I didn't want to make sure everybody thought we had to go in that Ford. I did remember, this is the person who started this committee in 2020.
God, we taped these.
And I just wanted to make sure that just because I like history and what have you, we didn't have a fort here. If it was a modern area, if you rolled me, you're rolling me back, so I just wanted to make sure that we weren't going with a fort because we've always had a fort. I like the idea
So
of
Brian,
mountain
I'm
there.
just saying what I've done, and I'm not the person that can, I know what all Northville want. I'm not. I've sat in a lot of meetings where I heard people say these things, right? Whether it was, listening to the Ford Field Task Force, the initial, I'm on the Riverwalk Task Force, many discussions on that. So this is long-term, or when we had the public meeting to what do you like? Over there, so over at, when we had it at the, community center, right? So not Barbara's view of the world. This is what the consensus that I have heard time and time and time again, on this. So I really thank those companies for bidding. They have quality products. It's just not the kind of products we want. So now I'll get to that's my opinion. So it would be, you've suggested and mentioned that, okay, we could go with the committee, and I guess had talked about this play by design. Sounds like a wonderful business model on many different levels. In particular, we had committed to the community after that center that when we got to what is this going to specifically look like, we would come back to them. So it sounds like their business model already incorporates that as part of their business, which is wonderful. So certainly when I look at their photos, I know it would have to be more design. They gave examples, but this does look like Fort Griswold, right? It has those elements that we see that kids just love. Adding a hill would be a cheap add-on.
Couple hills.
Yes. So, but that's here nor there, right? I'm looking at their equipment themselves. I guess my question is, I would, we'd have to get an opinion, but we certainly do no bid all the time. In fact, we've got quite a bit of it in our consent agenda right now. So in this case, we did do a bid, but respectfully, it didn't meet our needs. Is this the only, and I'm very enamored by play by design, in terms of your description and these at least example photos that this fits this need. Did the committee identify any other vendor that would be similar to play by design? If the mayor's concerned that, because it isn't unusual that you say, we reach out to a company to say, we would like you to give us a bit. So that's, I'm asking on that.
I'm going to answer that, but then I'm also going to give Claire the opportunity as well.
Yeah.
To my knowledge, there is this company, there is Leathers themselves is continuing to do, but they only do community build. And so Play by Design will design and come in and build it for you. Because we really, I would really discourage a community build component to this.
And I don't disagree. I think 30 years ago it was, but now it's not.
And there is another company that builds primarily from wood logs. Those are the only ones that I'm familiar with. Are you familiar with any other company that does a similar sort of thing?
So exactly looking. Oh my God.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, microphone so they can hear you on home.
Yeah.
Remember, there's 60 listening to you.
All right, so to look exactly like a Leathers playground structure, you really have play by design and you have Leathers. And then to have more of a wood structure, you have a few other companies like Compan and some other ones that do these really beautiful sculptural wooden play structures, but they're still wood.
Right.
So you still have the same
Safety.
wooden maintenance that you would have with the current structure. So the reason why we were choosing to go more with this other direction is that the composite marine grade plastic, you won't have to
Durability.
paint it, you won't have to stain it. There won't be any splinters. It's pretty durable and
Thank you, Claire. And I'm completely supportive. Everything I've heard about this company sounds amazing and fits our needs. But I was asking, following from that, we can't go so well. It sounds like this is very unique. It's unique in their product, and it's a product that more closely matches the vision for Fort Griswold that's been expressed, a new Fort Griswold that's been expressed. And just, there's so much that's good, but I'm following up. It's not my concern, but the mayor had a concern.
Right.
So I wanted to ask on that, but it
I'm
sounds
the one that
like
goes to
I
jail
would
here.
not, defer to the committee, but I would be uncomfortable using wood.
Yeah.
And I think that we all know that a marine grade composite is so durable and maintenance free.
I would want that whole committee. So I was one that kind of came in and out that day on the 23rd. It was intense. And I didn't think there was a big majority that day, but I think it's migrated that way, so I was trying to represent what I heard back and forth and hearing from people in there. So I got it. And I didn't want to tie them to a Fort Griswold, there's a lot of discussion that was about a 12-hour day. I did not stay in there all 12 hours, but they've done a lot of work. I would want to make sure, as John just mentioned, and he rolled me a little bit. I just want to make sure all the options were still open here today. We could go forward with that. One thing, I don't think the city is going to put more. We have 10 different projects. We have money being raised, and absolutely that money that's going to be raised will go right to that. It's not going to help on any other of the 9 projects out there. So I came in here thinking, got to stay on budget, stay on timing. It's part of my job here. And, if we can do a sole source, but I think you might have to rebid. You work what you have to do, talk with legal. I rolled a little bit from even this afternoon, and others take a look. I don't want to keep pushing things back. I know timing is not the deal, but let's do it right.
Yep.
I want all the options there. So
Right.
I would be supportive if that group as a whole still wants to go. It wasn't that day. I think they've all kind of, not all, but they might have rolled to this. That is my opinion.
Yeah, and I had one final, and then it's actually follow up from what you just said. There's nothing in what I heard in Play by Design that raises the price metric to what you gave the others.
Right.
So
Many had mentioned what you said, here's our budget, and they worked within that. So
that's how it is with Play by Design. They said we can design to whatever budget you have, just understand that it may not fill the space the way that we're envisioning that it would. However, we do have the opportunity, like you said, to come back later and put more in. The surfacing that we keep talking about, we talked about poured in place at first, but we've really leaned towards doing artificial turf. So I just want you guys to understand
Good.
that was a
Take it in,
decision.
take it out.
Yeah, they're comparable in price. One of the advantages to artificial turf is that it can be installed in a much wider variety of temperatures, and it's a little bit more durable and easily replaced. And
Great.
it has all the same benefits as like a poured in place.
Sounds good.
what is it cost wise compared to the port?
It's almost comparable.
Is it almost
Yeah,
comparable?
Yeah.
Yeah, the one,
Some-
well, I think it is less. So poured,
It could have, well, yeah.
yeah. So. in
I
fact-
think that was a good recommendation.
Yeah. Well, I do.
On a unit price, they're comparable. It's just based on how they laid it out.
Oh, yeah. So the other is that the project scope from February 2020 poured in place rubberized. It was discussed at that meeting that while way back when we were looking for a grant to fund this, we needed to do pour in place because a grant will not fund anything else. But now you can still have, first of all, it doesn't need to be universal access. It's accessible. And also that there are alternatives that are still expensive, but less expensive. So it sounds like that's something that, because that would be done by, for example, Play by Design, right?
Yes, and their
That would be-
artificial turf is equally accessible as poured in place. So it's got the same,
Great.
you get a low pile, same
great.
rolling resistance, you have some cushion.
And easier, there's,
Yeah.
when poured in place,
I personally think that's a nice change.
Anyway, so-
It-
I like that.
Yeah, that's kind of where a lot of newer
That's
playgrounds are.
Terrible, and you
towards
can
that.
use it and take it out,
Yeah,
put it in,
and
it's
it's
easier.
about flooding and everything, since I know that's a low lying area.
Yep,
And they said it would be just fine, no problem, so,
drainage better under
Yeah.
there, okay.
yeah,
And
it'll
thank you.
drain a lot better than.
So before we give you a push on which way, I'm gonna open up for the public here and anybody that's online, so just stay close and then we'll give you which way.
I
You want
just
any
wanna
final
clarify
comments?
One thing, when we talk about uncertainty of pricing, I'm talking about for the site work.
Right.
Because we have to go back out and bid that. And that's a lot of concrete, it's earth moving, and so we know what that price is for the existing bidders. If we go back out, there's just uncertainty there. We have no way to predict. So I just wanted to be clear, that was when I was commenting about
Good.
budget.
I appreciate it.
Comments from those in council. Go right ahead, Nancy.
All right. Thank you. Nancy Darg at 516 North Center Street, the chair of the River Restoration Task Force, which took over Ford Field Master Plan, Ford Field Gateway, Fort Wheelfield, Randolph Drain, and now the play structure.
We appreciate that.
And hopefully
Mayor
very
appreciate
soon the bathroom.
Thank you, yes.
Don't forget the log cabin.
So just so you, for those of you youngsters that don't know, I served on the rec committee for over 20 years despite my youthful look.
Yes.
And I want you to know that both Claire and Wendy really did a great job on getting as much the best bids that they could. Here's the thing that the field did. First of all, the budget is 1.2 million, and that blew everybody away. But then we started realizing that we had all the site work, we had utilities to do, and we had to make it handicap accessible. And given that, the money was tight in terms of the play equipment, but we fortunately learned from Rhino that they could do turf and they could make a hill for us, for the kids to roll around and play King of the Mountain. And do that. Here's what we also discovered in looking at the proposals that came in on the play equipment is some of these proposals was a bunch of pipes thrown out there with a slide attached to it, and they were play events. That's how they were actually described. But Jenna and Liz both pointed out that the most important component of play is imagination, creativity, and socialization. That's what we have at Fort Griswold. We don't just have, you get sweaty, you go down a slide, you run back and you go down a slide. What we have is kids making up games. They run around in circle, they hide in the
that's okay.
Anyways, they hide in the turret.
Second.
And that was what was missing, and that's what we were agonizing over when we were reviewing these bids. The other thing is, thank you, Mr. Krenz, for pointing out, they're thin. They're like an older man with their hair thinning. I mean, some of those play equipments, like, there was huge gaps in it. So even when we looked at the play equipment, we knew we would have to buy connecting pieces to get it in. So we were already going to have to raise the price of the actual play equipment. I believe, in closing, that if it was me, I'd ask Rhino to put in the site work. They did a fabulous presentation. Their prices are great. Ask them to put in the site work. And ask them, would you rebid the play equipment with Play by Design? Work with Play Design and see if they'll work with other people instead of just their own people. Given that they're on the East Coast, I think they will. They must hire local people to do it. I think we can keep it to very close to the original time schedule. I think we were going to have to increase the money for the play equipment anyways, no matter who we went with. And I think that we will come up with a structure that adds a lot more than just running around sweating. It adds a creativity, socialization, and imagination component. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Nancy. Anybody else? Mr. Gutman, this would be a good time for you to speak now.
Dave Gutman, 900 Spring Drive, Northville. I just want you to know, Andrew, from day one, every single meeting, we talked about that freaking little hill in front of East Village School.
Yeah.
Every meeting.
Have you? Okay.
And so we are like totally in alignment. Secondly, I was a huge champion of Rhino. Wendy knows it, Claire knows it from the beginning. I thought they did a great job. They seem to just want to serve us to the very best of any of the teams. But through this process of looking at Northville and our DNA and Mill Race Village right there and what Fort Griswold was and what we represent and our heritage, I too am flipping to play by design for consideration.
Okay.
So,
Great.
thank you.
Maybe a combination of the two. Great. Ms. Johnson.
I was not going to precede the last two because you guys have all the good information. Lori Johnson, 47234 Dunsany Road. As a grandma now in the area with two older kids, not very old, but older grandkids that I've climbed around Fort Griswold with them. I heard the component about what do the kids want, but I will say with now two younger kids that live right down the street from there, two younger grandchildren, I envision climbing around there with them. And I think that might be more doable with play by design versus the more modern version.
Yep.
I understand why modern versions are working in some areas, but I'm not going down the elongated tube with the kids.
Yep.
But I will climb around the rest of it with them. And I think that does give, I love that wording, the imagination and creativity. If I can hide behind something or climb up a ramp and play with the kids that way, I'm all in. So I think that does make some sense for just kind of a broader range use of the playground area. Thanks.
Good. Anybody else in council chambers? Come right up.
I'm Michael Rowan, 516 Randolph Street, and didn't intend to talk tonight about that, but it's near and dear to my heart. I volunteered 2 days before I even had children to build Fort Griswold.
Oh, you did.
Particularly the suspension bridge is what I built. I was a builder then. I donated tools, I donated equipment, and we got everything back. And my kids and my nephews and nieces and all their friends enjoyed it. And we were heartbroken to hear it was coming down. But I really liked that played out by design structure compared to the others. Also, being a contractor, I'm not sure how the bid process went about if they disclosed their profits. But each one of those areas, they had to be making money on. So it may behoove you to get bids yourself for the site work without their profits tacked upon it. So it may not be more. It actually may be less than what you were quoted by those Rhino, et cetera, those contractors. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Anybody else in council chambers? Anybody from Parks and Recreation back there? Anything to add? Be brief, be brilliant, be gone.
Two experts at the front.
Okay. Duly noted. Thank you. Good. So online, I'm closing it off for comments from the council chambers. Anybody online with their hand up?
We do have a person online that joined, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
If they'd like to make a comment, they just need to raise their virtual hand by pressing *9. Caller, if you'd like to make a comment, just press *9 on your keypad.
Going once, *9. Are you talking 4723 or 7523?
7523. And you do have 81 people that have tuned in this evening.
Outstanding. There's a lot of information going tonight. All right. Okay, so going once, going twice. Okay, I'm closing off public comment online. So with that, let me start. I just didn't want to make sure we were in a box. So even though I went one way or another, I understand as a historian, the wood structure is great. We all grew up there. My kids are 39 and 37. I got it. I've spent a lot of seat time in there. Want to make sure we were open for all options. And just because I was trying to get this going years ago, I didn't want to influence it. When I came in here tonight, just so everybody knows, I was ready. Let's go to the next level because I was part of those meetings and we've switched since those meetings. So I think a lot of different inputs since that meeting. And even Dave Gutman was very strong on the other side. You rolled him tonight. I think from what we've heard here and why we're going to do this and maybe, a split bid on foundation, whatever you do, it's not up to us to decide that, but I would be open to go into the new direction. I wasn't there at the beginning. We, the city, and I spent a lot of money around here, but I don't think we're ready to spend more money, but I think we're raising so much money, and Rotary's behind this, I'm part of that. And everything you're doing is really making it, and the foundation and different groups, public-private partnerships. I get it. So my opinion, I will roll to that, but it can't go forever. I mean, this is by next spring, we better be having something up there. That is my opinion. I mean, so.
Agree.
So that is mine. Other comments?
No, I mean, yeah, go ahead.
Minor, I like Nancy's creativity because, you don't want to, you have these bids, right? So Nancy had suggested we'll go with Rhino. I do think, to what extent are we then paying Rhino to manage this? So you have additional costs that aren't going into the project that Rhino could be due. But since Rhino was such a good partner, it could be that you find out, would you be we're going a different direction. For the, it would be for the equipment and the surfacing, who would do that? But would you want to consider the site work? So I don't know how, I defer to the committee in the city, how they want to handle that. Right. But I think there has to be a clear delineation because there's 4 bidders. And I think we,
And have they been communicated to at all, the 4 bidders?
They've been asking me what the second.
I bet they have. That's my point. Okay.
I told them that we are still in discussion.
Okay. So I hear from the group, what I hear tonight is a direction to go in that area. It might not be unanimous, but I think it's the majority here to go in that new direction.
Yeah, Brian, the only thing I was going to add is.
Yeah, we could do that. So we get that. After you have any more comments before?
Yeah. The only thing I was going to add is I do want to say thank you to Claire and to Wendy and to everyone on the playground committee, because this is one of those moments where we recognize often the amount of passion we have in our community, but this is a group that's actually raising their hand to say we're going to do more. Right. Because I recognize we're putting more on the plate. We're going to need to go revisit the process. We're going to have to push hard to hit deadlines and make sure we can get this in place. And so I'm excited about the discussion and where things are heading. And I think we're going to end up in a better place long term. But I do appreciate everyone's effort that's going into it and how we got here.
So with that, we don't have to do a roll call vote, but I'm going to go which direction that you'd like to go. Let's go down the line, starting with you.
I think I don't think anyone's wondering where I'm at right now, but I like if we can incorporate the Rhino Plus play by design, but I like going the play by design path.
Same for me.
So I've rolled a little bit. I looked at it intellectually. I looked at it financially. And I looked at timing. This is a 5-year love affair. We started this in 2020, but I'm very committed to this. I will roll to that direction. I think it's the right direction of what I've heard again tonight. You don't get a vote. Go ahead.
I'm aligned. Let's just keep a tight timeline to make it happen.
Yep.
My kids are all almost driving, so let's go.
I know it.
I'm aligned.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's where we're at. Again, try to do it on a timely basis. This can't go until next fall. Let's get it so the kids are playing on the structure by late spring, maybe early spring. Get that foundation work if you can right away this fall, whatever you can, because we have 10 other projects going. And I know this is the most important that we're doing today, but and from a budgetary standpoint, yes, we'll be raising more money. Yep. Good. So you got that direction. That's what you needed tonight, correct? Okay. Thank you very much,
so
ladies.
much.
Appreciate it. Number 7, we have no public hearings. Number 8, we finished all our business. Now we're finally to new business. Can you believe it? So 9A, consideration of approving the request to rezone 501 Fairbrook Street. This is a second reading. This is down on Rogers Street and 7 Mile. At one time, there are going to be different condo buildings. Now it's 2 homes. Who is going to address this tonight? Is that you?
So I can address it quickly. So obviously at June 16th, 2025 regular council meeting, City Council introduced the proposed zoning map amendment for the first reading. The request from Michael Rowan is to rezone 501 Fairbrook Street from R3 third density residential to R2 second density residential. The first reading came. Council had a chance to ask questions of Justin Quagliata. At that point, we really heard no additional questions. And at this point, it's open for council consideration.
Great. And Justin's done a lot of work. This has been moving for a long time, which direction, and I appreciate your patience on this too, as the owner. This was a facility, one of the mayors of Norfolk lived there at one time, Con Langfield. That was the first millionaire in Norfolk. He owned the labs. And I appreciate that you're keeping some of his original home there and putting another home next to it. At one time, the density seemed to be pretty intense for that corner and how you're going to put the driveways in the whole bit, but everybody was working with you. But Justin has looked at it and he was fully supportive, and we had the hearing before and got all the different comments, and it's been all inputted. So I'm fully supportive of this tonight. Is there anything you want to say before? I don't think you have to.
Yeah.
Okay, tell you the truth. If we have a question, we'll be there. So again, 7 Mile and Rogers, where Rogers goes down to the end on the blinking light, we're talking about the other side of that. It's the old Langfield house, and there's enough property to put another house on that. One time there's going to be like 2 buildings of condos.
George, so we haven't heard anything that's new information since the first reading?
No, I talked to Justin today. There was no new information to provide to council. Same as last time, same presentation.
All right, for me, this is brief. I'm still in full support.
Good. Yeah. Any other questions on that?
I was supportive before and I am now.
And we heard comments from the public. It was all positive at that time on the last reading. Yeah. So I will open it up.
Well, he had to.
Oh, no,
You want any more?
I agree. I was supportive previously, and obviously with no additional information, I'm still supportive, and thank you for your contribution to Fort Criswell.
Great. So with that, is there anybody from council chambers that has any comments on this? 7 Mile and Rogers going once, going twice? Closing off here. Anybody online with their hand up on this?
No hands raised at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Okay,
Are there
good.
still people online?
Well, you've had 100 total views so far this evening.
That's good.
Well,
That's good. Thank you very much. So a lot of people are interested in what's on the agenda here tonight. This is they're all for your split, and then we certainly do. Yeah, absolutely. So with that, I am looking for a motion officially to go forward with this tonight. Am I not? Yep.
Move to approve the second reading and adopt the zoning amendment to zone 501 Fairbrooke Street from R3 third density residential to R2 second density residential to be effective at the earliest date permissible by applicable law.
Support.
So we have a motion properly supported. Any other discussion? Great, seeing none. I think we can do this. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Congratulations. Keep building there. Get her done. I see it every day. Thank you. And the next one is the consideration of local street and utility program. Tell us about that and award.
I'll kind of make it brief and quick since it's kind of getting late. For this year's 2025 local street and utilities program, we're looking at resurfacing Eaton Drive all the way from there to 7 Mile. This is part of our water infrastructure project. We're planning on for the next 3 years. We have quite a bit of water main, lead service lines we like to get replaced. With that, we also will be making improvements to the streets as well. So for this construction season, it's Eaton Drive. We'll be replacing the street, curb and gutter. Also a huge improvement to the storm sewer on Eaton. It's when I first started here in Northville, there's 3 key areas that always flooded, and Eaton was one of them. So I'm glad we'll be taking care of it this year. Also on Eaton Drive, many don't know, at the southern side of it, the water main kind of just stops at Spring and goes to the east. So we'll be connecting water main all the way down to 7 Mile in 2 different locations. So that's going to help with our looping, then also with our fire protection as well. And then also obviously water quality. This is a part of a grant that we received through MDOT, Category B funding. So about $250,000 of this project is being funded by MDOT. We went out to bid for it last week. We received 7 proposals. We do have a new person in town with the lowest bid, but we feel confident with their background, their previous work with MDOT, and also their subcontractors, which is Nago Paving and Sons, who we would use with Nago anyways. And so the lowest bidder was Fessler and Bowman. They're local in Holly. They're actually really known for their concrete work. But they've done many street projects for MDOT and some other local communities as well. So OHM took a look at it. They call a lot of their references, very good positive feedback. So I'm asking for a recommendation to move forward, contract for Eaton Drive. with Fessler and Bowman. However, the motion that's in the packet says Nagel, so you might have to just cross that off.
Cross that out.
Yeah.
When you do the motion.
Yeah.
Do that.
So, and then just to touch base real quick, 2025, this construction season, obviously we're working on Eaton Drive. It was in consent agenda is what we're looking at for next construction season, which includes a lot of water main infrastructure improvements, which also includes streets as well. There's a huge list there that you guys approved to get the design going on that. So, and that's it. So
Great.
Happy to answer any questions. I also have OHM still here present.
So on this, to my knowledge, we started in 2016. This was like one of the worst opportunities, but we had to fix the opportunities that lead to this all the way up to Clement and Main Street, which is in the township. We have the state and the county reworking that. It might be paved on either side because unusually, as Mike knows, all the gravel came down from the township down Main Street. It turned right on Orchard, beat up Orchard. We had to redo Orchard last year and get more intakes for the drainage. And then that water went down there and it leveled out on Eaton Drive. This has been age old, and the piping, we had to get different permits from the county. We'd have front end loaders to get rid of the gravel on Eaton Drive. So it's beating it up so much, we can see through the street in the middle. So I appreciate your work. We were supposed to do it. It's kind of delayed because somebody lives on that street. So I didn't want to think that we're doing it because of that street. But it has been an age old problem for probably 50, 60 years.
Yeah, I got lots of documents of flooding on that street, almost going door to door with the flooding. A lot of the catch basins and manholes in the street are failing with holes, potholes. Similar
Like walking on the moon down by Andy Genetti's house on the end of the street. I mean, and your snowplows hardly can get by without ripping it up.
Yeah.
I got it. So I appreciate, and it was ranked on the Bazar deal.
Well, yeah, and the main reason is for our water infrastructure. It's undersized 4-inch old cast iron piping. We have several old lead service lines and galvanized lines previously connected to lead. So
very good. So we have that. Any questions for Mike before I open up? Nope.
No, I have very minor question. It's just, this is under the bid review summary, and every one of the contractors that submitted a bid have an asterisk after it that says adjusted bid amount to correct bidder's error.
Yes, so
it's a mine, but I don't.
Yep. So their total price that they had on their bid sheet didn't add up to their quantity. So OHM went through each one and actually did the math for them. Yes.
Right.
I got you. So that answers that.
Yeah, and I like if we can get $250,000 every year.
Yeah, so we got $250,000 from the governor's office, so that was a good thing for all of us. We'd like to do that every year. Anything before I open up a comment? Any comments from council? You'll appreciate that in your neighborhood too. Oh, I didn't see Andy down there. Live on the moon down there, don't you, with these craters? Good. I will close off here. Anybody online?
Nobody online at this time, sir.
Excellent. So with that, I will close off public comment. I'm looking for a motion for Mike to go forward on the local street and utilities program. Go ahead. You have the right wording. Somebody.
Let's see, we're replacing Nagel with Fessler and Bowman, correct?
Yeah, yes, please. Yep.
Okay. I'll give it a go. I move that city council award a contract to Fessler and Bowman in the amount of $1,434,165,079 with a 15% contingency for a total of $1,649,290.66 for this year's local streets and utilities program. And it is further recommended that the director of DPW be authorized to sign this contract on behalf of the city.
Support. So I have a motion properly support. Any other discussion? Seeing none.
Looking forward to Linden Court being the new surface of the moon next year.
Yeah, I think we could do that. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Aye. You have a motion to go for it.
Thank you.
So you will, the next steps, probably have a meeting in that neighborhood because they are.
I guess real quick is after this, tonight was step one. Next we'll be meeting with the contractor, kind of get a time frame from them. Then we'll set up a public street meeting. Have everyone on Eaton and then maybe the surrounding streets if they want to come in and learn about the project, meet here at city council.
Okay.
So we'll figure that out and get that posted and go hand out door hangers to let everyone know.
Yep. Excellent. Thank you very much, Mike. So we added 9C, the city council minutes from 6:16. I'll let you take it away. Did you want
Yeah, so,
changes on there?
well, I'll go, there's two. One is 90 and the other is 10. So let's go right to item 10, which
Okay.
is mayor and council communications. This is a meeting you were not at, right?
Okay, right.
Yes, right.
Yep.
So, it's a little tricky. So technically I can only request there be edits to things that I said. Okay. So in the third paragraph, it says Mayor Pro Tem Morosky Brown commented about the Let's Open Northville v. City of Northville lawsuit and the need for further data review. That does not at all. I did not make a comment about Let's Open Northville lawsuit. I was following from John's discussion, which is the difficulty in this, which was he mentioned Let's Open Northville not as his topic, but only to say it's still an ongoing lawsuit.
And that's
It
the way
wasn't-
the tape says it's, right? Did she say that?
So
I wasn't there.
I
so
think
had
I
to
can
go.
probably help clarify that
Clarify
section.
that
So
between
my
the two.
exact comments were, as many of you know, both sides rested last week on a lawsuit surrounding our street closures. As the dust begins to settle, I'd like to request that, even if the city is victorious, we made a commitment to reassess the street closures, reviewing public and business support. And then I went on to call for us to collect data and to look at all options moving forward. So, and I think that where the mayor pro temp is likely going is, instead of it saying that I spoke on the lawsuit itself, what I was speaking on was reassessing the street closures, including reviewing public and business support. I think just replacing that sentence probably clarifies.
Are you comfortable? Because that's.
I'm good
what you
making
said,
that
okay.
change. Yes.
Yeah, so what
Is
happens
that okay
is.
with clerk to make that change?
Yes, and so what happens is mine flowed from Don, I was following up from what
Okay.
John said. So it was following up. I also did not make a comment related to the Let's Open Northville lawsuit other than related to what John said, meaning that was ongoing litigation, litigation right now. So, but I did say that we needed to review information, updated information for review. And I agree with that. So it's just that this is a sensitive topic, talking about a lawsuit at a city council meeting, and that was not a fair characterization of the comment, certainly that I made, but because John's was also stated in a similar manner, it was sort of like, I agree with what John said, right? So
So then that rolled to one, you're not changing the words, but changing.
right. So if John is getting that changed to him, I was referring to that. So Barbara, it would be, because I was commenting on what he said. How do you
Right.
So now
characterize
you're
that?
both in trouble.
Yes.
No, I'm not a.
So you have the words,
Thank you,
that
Laura.
it should say, or,
Well, I mean, we're not supposed to be, this is not verbatim, right? It's
Yeah,
just characterizing it. So is Morosky Brown supported? Mayor, I guess Councilman Carter's comments related to getting updated information related to the seasonal street closures.
Okay.
That was it.
I was there, so I can't say. it.
Yeah.
Support.
And
supported that.
I did also make a statement related to, at that point, I also, I apologized for the messy discussion for the commission and board appointments. And that we could not rely on the documents that were in the packet. So I did, because that was a lengthy part of the meeting, and I did also apologize,
Okay.
to the public that had to go through that meeting.
And that's in there, isn't it?
No, it's not. So that's not in there. And the last, I would never put meeting minutes, here. The last sentence about what I said wasn't quite fair, but since we're doing that, it says the last sentence that what I said, and the opportunity to give that space a name. What I did, it could be a period after behind City Hall. And what I did is I asked city council members to consider naming that green space. So because it has no name. And that's what I asked as a consideration for council to consider.
Talking about the park behind City Hall here.
Which is how we always refer to it. Well, it's not a part, it's the green space behind City Hall or it's next to the library. Let's give it a name. So that's what.
Yep.
So I asked for consideration of council in the future to name that green space. So that's
Sounds like
it.
another task force.
So
Get
it
it
sounds
done.
like we've solved it because is that?
Yeah, it's
So
good.
it sounds like we've solved item 10 on that.
I want to add one thing in there.
Okay.
Just under my comment, I say you can put a period after Carter's statement and then cross out regarding the lawsuit.
Yep.
Because my comments were also about the ongoing comments I've made over the years about a review process for the streets, noted with the lawsuit.
So all three will be updated to reflect what was discussed at the meeting.
If you
and-
could work with the clerk on that.
Yeah, and the other was related to, I had at that meeting, so as you know, we had to pull the board and commission appointments, the 4 documents, and we had to do the appointments by motion,
Yeah.
right? Because we could not rely on those documents because there were substantive and significant omissions and errors in them. So we winged it. We got through it. We made those appointments. That was not a problem. It wasn't the appointments, it was the documents. So what I had asked, and I don't know if you want to put it under, it certainly makes sense, that what I had requested, it was a disclaimer that the appointment documents that were in the city county council meeting packet, that they contain substantive and significant errors and omissions and should not be relied on for the official record for these city council motions for appointments. Otherwise, it stands as though they're accurate because we can't take it out of the packet. That's done. That's what I had asked for, so we could avoid this. So it needs the disclaimer because it's many and substantial and significant. And it relates to some of the appointments even. So I had requested that be added. It doesn't have to be long. It could be a sentence and it can either be after 9A or what I'm worried about, if somebody looks to the minutes, I want it to be very clear that they don't go to the packet.
But
And
quite
you look at
honestly,
the-
isn't it the tape that people go to? We are trying to condense down the minutes. These are not legal minutes.
No, you don't understand. So
Tell me what I don't understand.
So those 4 documents, as we always do, we have them in our consent agenda from the board and commission selection committee. You were not at that meeting. I can sit down with you and go over each one. We don't need to do it here. I provide, well.
We can
freedom
watch
close.
Yep, I got it.
Yeah, so we don't need to go through that again. We did that at the last meeting. I can go over each of them with you personally. So to confirm what I'm saying is accurate. So we just need a statement so that those aren't considered the official record. Normally they would be, but they aren't in this case. We didn't simply move them off the consent agenda,
Understand.
put them on the regular agenda and approve them. That is not what we did.
It was unique for the 6 years we've been doing it.
It was
This way.
well, we know.
That one line, you would like to put that line in
We
there?
just want to put it in
Okay,
under
wasn't-
9E, so we're not relying that those, the 4 appointment documents that were in the consent, that remain in the consent agenda should not be used as official record for these appointments. The motions below are our official decision.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay, I'm fine with that. Is
Mhm.
anybody else fine?
Yeah.
Support enough to put that one liner on there? It was over 6 years that Barbara and I have been doing it. It's one of the only meetings I haven't been to because it's some hard things or whatever. but
Oh, tomorrow. No, I
appreciate it.
appreciate it when you're
Thank you.
here. I would rather
Yep.
not lead the meeting.
Thank you. So from that, I'm fine with all those changes. I didn't mean.
Yeah, and I don't, and
I understand.
we
I
now have
looked at the
skinny minutes,
tape.
so there's only a few
Yep.
places where
Yep.
the addition to 9E is extremely rare and unusual
Yep.
that we had that problem, right? The 10, it's just, we've got skinny minutes now. I'm heartened that the clerk continues to put in the minutes, right? Where on the tape, somebody can go and listen. That's good. And that needs to be continued and improved. But when we're writing what comments are, we just need to be careful on the wording of that. So.
So you'll work with the clerk, make sure, I think you heard it, what we said.
So I thought I
from
said
your standpoint?
that they shall not, that the document shall not be relied upon, but the motions below are the record.
Yeah, the documents in the packet should not be relied on for it as an official record.
Okay.
Is that right? Is that
Yep.
what you have, George?
Yep.
Okay. I'm comfortable with that.
It's accurate.
So you have it? Does somebody want to say
Nope.
that? Okay, we got it. So we're all in support of that? All in favor of that? Oh, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Those 3 or 4 changes.
Thank you,
Good.
everyone.
You bet. We are done with 9. We're going to 10, mayoral and council communications. Again, great to see a lot of people downtown. It was a great weekend. You know, the weather was great. A lot of people out there, a lot of people that were in here. It was why we're here in Northville, 10,000 people in downtown, seeing people and reuniting. We will continue to move things forward. Like we said today, all the work done by some of these committees that we talked about, these started in 2019, 2020. They're all coming into fruition. I just want to make sure we get the Ford Field done. We've been talking about it for 5 years. We are. It's great. I didn't want to influence it one way or the other. I kind of said it on the opposite, but of course I like history. Didn't have a Ford, but I like history. Appreciate what everybody does and the people that are still online. We couldn't do all the things in this town without the 20 or 30 or 46 people on the cemeterian committee. Isn't that unbelievable? Doing those stones, that will be quite something for our bicentennial. So I thank all the citizens for doing what they do for good on those 27 boards and task forces. That's all I have today. Thank you. John?
Only thing I was going to add is a congratulations for anyone who didn't make it down to see Dr. Bill Demery and Preservation Dental on 50 years of serving their patients and our community. So much appreciated.
That's
50 years, and there were some patients from 50 years ago that came to a celebration. So quite something, wasn't it? Anything, Barbara?
No, just one observation by the way, the consent agenda just had so many amazing projects in it that the city's moving forward with this. So of course, as always, we thank staff for assembling those documents and then of course the work coming from it. But there were a couple very substantial sole source contracts in there for OHM. And I just want to, in the future, I think we just need to make sure that we document why it's got to be sole source whenever we do that.
Yeah, I asked Mike to.
Yeah, so I think that's going to happen. So it's just that sensitivity to that. And also if engineering is leading us, engineering is really expensive. It always is, right? But if who gets the pre-engineering makes it more likely that the engineering, which is the bigger money, is going to be sole source, we need to start reassessing our pre-engiering as well.
Okay. So right.
That's
you didn't
just
have to do that, but
that's my observation.
And that's what we've been doing over the last, well, I guess 6 years. We've done 3-year separate contracts with different general consultants, engineering services. So last time was in October of 2023 with OHM. At that time, we did select another firm, Spicer Group,
which is good too.
Which is good to have too. But depending on the project itself. So, for instance, your water infrastructure project, it's a plan that you work together with one firm. You like to quickly implement that with that same firm. It just keeps things simplified, which in fact, the program we're working on, it'll be over after the 3 years is up with OHM and we'll be reevaluating. When it comes to special projects, parking study, bridge study, that's where we like to go out and get fresh eyes on it, fresh prices. Like for instance, what you guys don't know, the Yerkes Dam. I have to have it this year get inspected, and I have Spicer Group working on that for me. So it's within the budget and bring it to you guys. But so we're still kind of flexing back and forth with the different engineering firms. But we already did that back in 23, especially when it comes to our general services, such as your water infrastructure, capital improvements. And we had a good turnout when we did that. We had 5 firms. We narrowed down to 2. And we selected OHM as our prime, and with Spicer as that secondary for backup going out just to expedite projects.
Well, and of course, there's many situations, and you've just described too, where sole source makes sense. And we see that often with fire and police equipment repeatedly, right? So it's just making sure, because when people see those numbers, we hear, well, you just, your sole source bid. So I think it's just,
Yeah.
there's thought put behind those and a lot of work, right, that you do. So
Thoughtful
And that's
answer.
what the biggest thing is the water infrastructure, the one that you saw today for the 2026. It also includes streets in there because we're going to be ripping up streets. That's a plan that we sat down. We actually started that process with one firm, and then we switched to OHM back when we switched in 23, and we finished it. And now it's ideally to continue that plan with the same firm, get it built out, get it constructed. And then once we look for the next few years, that's when we can reevaluate either OHM, Spicer, or I go out again for another RFP.
yeah, and OHM does high quality work. There's, and it's not, but they're also very expensive. So, it's just.
Value oriented, I think they say.
Yeah, what's that buzzword? Get what you pay for.
Yeah, that's true. Anybody else?
No, I'll just build on that is Mike and I talked about this before. If we could, when we have instances like this, just for residents, for us, for the record, if we can have a couple sentences on what the sourcing methodology was, especially if you're single sourcing something that's like you alluded to, and better than us, is oftentimes the right thing to do when it comes to like special timing, special projects, hardware, services. If we can have a note in there saying, hey, no other bids were taken here because of this and this, I think it just helps the community see, okay, then my money's.
Give us the asterisk. Why?
And I know you are, but it just helps to show, downstream in the record that was happening. But thanks for everything. I'm gonna do some good news tonight. How about that? So, things going right. I think based on some recent announcements, we have 10 businesses that are coming into town this year. Which is great. I mean, people love this community, so let's just keep that going. Got an update on the pension. Pension's up from 104% to 116%.
Great.
So if the market is relatively stable or good at the end of this year, we'll have met a multi-year, multi-council strategy to accelerate pension payments to get us towards the AAA bond rating that only 17 communities have. And thank you to this council and to all the councils that came before us that helped set us up. That is a big deal. That is a 7-figure big deal. So hopefully this time next year, we're talking about what we don't need to do anymore, George. On that one. It's great. I drove down, Katie. It's great to see the steel going up in the Delano project.
Yes, it is.
Good for them. I'm excited for that.
Congratulations, Andrew.
Can't wait to see that going. Yeah, Andrew, good job. I want to thank David Merrill again. He puts in a ton of work with this team. He's air traffic control for 45 strong personalities that want to contribute.
Great work.
He does such great things in this community. And then if you also saw it in consent, I do a lot of work with the Northville Youth Network. So Amy put together a new strategic plan. If you have kids, if you're looking for resources that maybe aren't socialized as well or communicated wise, please go look at that. It's extraordinary what the Youth Network does. It's a great first stop before engaging with, higher levels of enforcement. So Amy and that team, and like I said last time, Amy's being recognized at a state level. So please go in there and take a look at all those resources that are waiting for you. That's it, Mayor.
Great. Good. Again, we covered a lot of ground today. We had 100 people online. They were here for the cemetery, for the roundabouts, for the playground, because they're interested. They are committed to Norfolk, like all of you in here. Thank you. And you have a new member, I think, of your beautification tomorrow officially. Jason Turnbull. He's been working now. We finally put him in on the consent. Beautification. He's the grunt work. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Okay, second.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We are.